What's up, everybody? It says we're live. How you doing? We got one person in the house. Blue sky, what's going on? And so I do have a topic for the video tonight. As you could see on the thumbnail, something popped right up in front of me throughout the week as I was scrolling the feeds, and it seemed appropriate for tonight's live stream. And I want to double check on something here before we get too deep. Let's just take a quick look. Hey, good to see you, man. I'm just doing we're just getting stalling for people to come into the room, and we're already up to 5. So, and then we go Jackie McGuinn in the house and mid 50s. What's up? What's up? So I am just bear with me. I am stalling because I can't concentrate on stuff on my screen and talk sometimes at the same time. And what did I wanted to, okay, here's where I wanted to go. And this is going to be a good one. I can feel it. So I'm going to let the wine breathe a little bit before we pop the cork. I pop the cork. We're going to let it breathe before I pour it out. We got some other stuff I can talk about before I get to the main content, but something popped up in front of me this week, and I'm like, that's a show topic. That right there, boom, thumbnail, show topic, something I've talked about more than once. It just this perfect opportunity just popped up in front of me to do it. So, okay, I just got done checking what I wanted to check. And so, welcome to the live stream. It's December 11th, 2025. Yeah, that's right. And I want to give a shout out to all 6 of you awesome channel members out there. And what's going on with what happened to the corner share? See, that sucks. All right. Well, I can't fix that tonight. So I'm just going to roll with it. I'll fix that later. That is weird though, that this OBS software is buggy. It's open source. It's free. So, can't cry too much about it when it doesn't work perfectly, but it is what it is. So the small talk is, y'all were asking me about the job that I applied to at the auto software. The company that I found as a result of taking my car to a crappy auto garage. And so I was going to reach out to somebody yesterday. I was going to try and reach out to somebody higher up on the chain with my resume and just say, hey, wanted to check in on that job. When I went to their website yesterday, they had 24 jobs listed on their site. And then it went up to 25 later in the day because I had to fix something on my resume, and I decided to do that before I'd reach out. And then, so I go to LinkedIn. They have the 6 leaders of the company with their LinkedIn profiles. And when I clicked on the LinkedIn profiles, you can't message anybody on LinkedIn that you're not connected to without paying to have a premium account on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh my, there's no way I would ever pay for a premium LinkedIn account. I can't even stand to be on that crappy website for more than about, you can count to 10. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, I'm out. Sometimes you can get to 10, but I just read some cringe garbage post from a CEO who sold his children to a slave auctions so that he could optimize his efficiencies and work all weekend on a project. I don't even know, like just a bunch of bullshit. It's the worst website on the planet. LinkedIn. Oh, it just makes me sick. This makes me sick. I wouldn't pay for that. So I was like, what else could I do? Since I'm interested in this, I go back to the company's website and the job I had applied to is gone. Just poof, gone. They're back to 24 jobs listed. And so I was like, you know what? My initial suspicion that job was filled before I even applied to it, but it just happened to be listed on their website, even though it wasn't on LinkedIn and all these other. I looked on LinkedIn, Indeed, and all of the ZipRecruiter and all the major job posting boards, and saw that the job was not listed on any of them. And so I think one of the worst things about LinkedIn is every time I log into that app, it says you have a private message, a DM, people up in my DMs, and it ends up being some ad. It ends up being some freaking ad saying, we think that you would be a good fit to join the board of this company, and just some like stupid ass. 99% of the time it's an ad. It'll say sponsored message. So like people pay to send you spam messages in your inbox of your DMs on that platform. Like I don't know any other platform that can pay to spam your private messages. Like that's some bullshit right there. It's one thing to pay an ad fee to have ads show up on your feed or in the column on the right-hand side or wherever the ads show up. But to pay a company like LinkedIn to send spam messages directly to someone's message box is freaking lame. I am honestly like, here, there's only 2 people now, it says in the room. So I'll ask this a few times. I am thinking about just burning down my LinkedIn profile and just being like the fuck Jerry of LinkedIn, where all I do is call out all the cringe that I see on that platform and just openly blast it. I'll basically burn my house down in the process because nobody will ever hire me for a job if they see my LinkedIn profile. And the other way of doing it would be to create a fake LinkedIn profile and just build it from nothing. But I have about 100 or so connections on LinkedIn, so I know most of the people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn would think it's hilarious. But I'll never be able to send my LinkedIn profile to an HR recruiter or anybody like that. So I've just been holding off on that. But there are people who are basically the fuck Jerry of LinkedIn, but they're on YouTube and other platforms, and they spend Joshua Fluke is the one that comes to mind on YouTube. All this guy does is go on LinkedIn and put people on blast and post and talk about all the cringe that he sees on the platform on his video channel. And it's just a never-ending supply of content. There's a Reddit forum where people just talk about all the cringe that they see on LinkedIn. I mean, I could just get my content from there along with what I find on my own. So you got Joshua Fluke, you've got the Reddit forum that people post things in. Plus, I see every time I log into that platform, I last about 10 seconds before I have to quit because some cringy ass thing shows up in front of me. And I'm like, no way. I was on Gab, for crying out loud. And I think LinkedIn is the cesspool of the internet. I could be on Gab with all the Nazis and the Jew haters and all the racist comments and jokes that people post on there. And even though that's not me, LinkedIn is way cringier than Gab ever was. I'm sorry, but it's horrible. Yeah, I don't know, Glenn. Yeah, just keep your... Anyway, so the job disappeared from that tech company that I was looking at. And then later on, like an hour later, I get my mailbox, shows up in my mailbox, the copy and paste form letter Thank you for your interest in our senior visual designer role and for taking the time to apply. We sincerely appreciate your effort and enthusiasm, but after careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates whose qualifications are more closely aligned with the immediate needs of the business. We wish you the best in your search. Regards. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck off. Like at this point, I would rather be ghosted, just straight up ghosted, than get a message like that. These employment systems, this was a system. Their job postings are on a separate website that's just a job hosting service that they've plugged their website into, like ZipRecruiter or one of those. So when you get rejected from a job, an HR person just checks a checkbox and hits the send button to reject. You automatically get this email that gets sent to everybody they rejected. Like, just fucking ghost me already. Like, I don't like being ghosted, but this is way worse. I would much rather just wonder what happened and be ghosted than to get these fucking form letters in my mailbox. Like, that is even more ridiculous because this person that rejected me never even looked at my resume or my qualifications or anything. They just hit a button and a automatically generated form letter shows up in my mailbox. That's like going out on a date with a girl and for, maybe she didn't want to meet you again. Like maybe you tried to set up another date. I think I'd rather get ghosted than get some text message back saying, I had a really good time, Adam, but I just don't see us as being anything other than friends. So therefore, we're not even going to be friends and we're never going to talk to each other again and we're never going to see each other again. Good luck with your search. I hope you find somebody. Like, just ghost me. Just ghost. That's better. Ghosting is better than that. I've ghosted. I'll admit it. I've been the ghoster. I've been the ghosted. Sometimes it's just better that way. I don't like... If you're going to reach back out to me for a job lead that I didn't get, make it personal. Tell me what's up. We looked you up on Google. We saw that you're the worst criminal piece of shit who ever lived. We saw that you had 400 pages of Google results for your felony Twitter post. And we just can't move forward with this application. Just be fucking honest, for crying out loud. I'm so sick of corporate America. And this wasn't even corporate America. This is a company of less than 200 people, but they have money in the bank. They had funding. They have customers. There's money in the bank. It's not a unfunded cluster. It's not an unfunded startup that's just swimming in a pond trying to find footing. They've got something going on. So they're in that middle stage. They're in that stage where they might just get bought out by some big fish and turned into something else. Who knows? But they were at the right size. Then I got another email today from some freaking tech recruiter. This happens 20 times a week. Most of the time I throw them right in the trash. This one said it was a fully remote job based out of somewhere on the West Coast. Pacific Standard. I'm like, Pacific time would be great because I don't got to be to work. If they're all getting to work at 8 a.m, I don't got to be there till 10. Booyah. Yeah, I might have to work until 7 every day, but I don't care. I'm home. But I did some homework. I said, does this company do a background check? And I found information that says under no circumstances whatsoever will this company hire a convicted felon in any way, shape, or form. I'm like, forget it. Why would I respond to this? So I threw it away. I ain't got time for that. I don't got 30 seconds to copy and paste my form letter to send to the recruiter with my resume attached so that I can get ghosted. I'll just save the 30 seconds and claim my time back. I can work on better things like my video channel here, right? So the live stream for the members, all you wonderful channel members, or rather all 6 of you awesome channel members, if you want to hang out in a private room Everything that stays in the anything that happens in the members only live stream stays in the members only live stream. It's just like a trip to Las Vegas. Whatever happens, happens. We're the only ones that know. But I had to move that to December 16th, which is like next Tuesday. That's next Tuesday because I got some stuff going on Sunday, some cool things. I got to go to a little shindig for Christmas, that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to be available to do the live stream. Glenn Beadshaw, I want to read this. I live in Canada and I have a criminal record for driving under suspension when I was a young guy, and I don't work for companies and I don't advertise, but because of word of mouth. And yeah, I know where you're going with that. Yeah, the quality of my work. I'm 63, still working at full capacity. And in fact, I could take on a lot more. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. Now, you wouldn't get a criminal record for driving under a suspended license here in America. In fact, I've shared the story where I got convicted of driving with a suspended license by a drunk judge who got thrown off the bench for being an alcoholic in Pennsylvania, even though I never had a suspended license. But I do have, it says on my driving record that I was caught driving with a suspended license. So it is what it is. But no, nobody will hire me. It's one thing that they won't hire a convicted felon, but a convicted felon whose name you can type into Google and find 500 pages. I mean, we did this live last week. It's just page after page after page. Here's NBC News, CBS, Fox News. Here's it all. Boom, boom, boom. It never ends. It will be 100 years after I die. Like my parents, my stepdad died in I'm trying to think. It was 2000. I wouldn't be able to, I won't know because he disappeared from the internet. Dude is gone. You type his name into the guy was never born, never lived. He is gone. He is no longer a part of the internet at all. You can't find anything about him. Nothing. My mom, the only thing that you find when you Google her is a funeral page, and that's it. A funeral page. I think my name might be on that. So that helps with my search engine rankings because there's something that's not related to my felony conviction shows up on one of the 500 pages of Google results when you type my name. But 150 years after I die, you're going to be able to type in my name and be like, boom, and there's still going to be 500 pages of results. And all my YouTube shit will be gone. All my stuff will be gone. The stuff that's there from going to prison for 2 years for Twitter posts, that'll be there for the next 150 years. That's never going away. So, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it at this point. And so we're just going to talk about Jesus because Jesus is the only way that I'm able to have any kind of life or future. Nothing I do is going to make a difference at this point. And so I didn't read this book every single day this week, but it is, it does come up. I read it yesterday and I read it today. I did skip some of the other days in between here and Sunday, whatever. Some days I don't even think about it some days. But when I do, it always has something to say to me and whatever I'm going through at the time. And December 10th, that was yesterday, and it went right along. December 10th, make me the focal point of your search for security. In your private thoughts, you are still trying to order your world so that it is predictable and feels safe. Not only is this an impossible goal, but it is also counterproductive to spiritual growth. When your private world feels unsteady and you grip my hand for support, you are living in conscious dependence on me. Instead of yearning for a problem-free life, rejoice that trouble can highlight your awareness of my presence. In the darkness of adversity, you are able to see more clearly the radiance of my face. Accept the value of problems in this life, considering them pure joy. Remember that you have an eternity of trouble free living awaiting you in heaven. And I was like, there's a lot to unpack here. And as I read this yesterday, I had to sit and kind of unpack all of what I just read and think about what I want to share about it. And these are the parts that stand out to me. That in your private thoughts, you are still trying to order your world so that it is predictable and feels safe. Not only is this an impossible goal, but it is also counterproductive to spiritual growth. I'm guilty as charged with that. In fact, I'm talking about doing a whole video series about setting up a system trying to order your world so that it is predictable and feels safe. Kinda. I've been talking about doing this. I really would not say that is the case, to be honest. It's more of a way to mentally declutter all of the thoughts that you have around where you want to go in life and try to bring some order out of that chaos. But I do try to order my world, and I do try to make it predictable and safe. And what I usually find out really fast is that you can't turn chaos into order. Unless you're a billionaire Freemason and that's your motto of your club, order ab cow, order out of chaos. And you definitely can't make it safe. My life is the most unpredictable, unstable mess that you could imagine. And it was that way well before the FBI drove a tank into my house. I mean, that has always been one of the number one reasons that relationships in my life fall apart. Women don't really want to be with a guy whose life is unpredictable, especially in the financial side of things. They want the guy with the steady paycheck who can buy them some shit and give them that sense of safety that we just talked about, even though it's impossible to truly have. They don't want to deal with somebody who has a career where one day you're king shit of Turd Hill and the next week you're covered in shit. And then you're back up on top of the mound a month later. And it just goes back and forth and back and forth. And, they want the guy who's been with the company for 30 years, has the gold watch and all that crap and, stable. They want somebody who's going to give them that white picket fence and house with the 2.5 kids and all the stuff that you're supposed to. And that's just never been me. I mean, you've heard enough of my stories by now if you watch this channel to know that's never going to be me. It never has, it never will. And then this entry says, remember that you have an eternity of trouble-free living waiting for you in heaven. And that kind of hits me because, I personally, I cannot imagine what a trouble-free life would be like. It doesn't even I can't even comprehend the concept. What would a trouble-free life be like? If I solved the biggest problem on my mind right now, if I solved the biggest problem I'm facing right now within a nanosecond, not even a whole second, another problem will just swoop right in to take the place of the one that was just resolved. And the funny thing is that the biggest reason that you will have a trouble-free life in heaven is because it's for eternity. And I started to think about that. And I'm like, because I talk about this a lot. Time, the concept of time is the biggest reason why so many of us live in fear and we let our problems dominate our thinking. Because life is short. And we only have a limited amount of time to figure things out before the opportunity is gone, or you become too old, or the deal is off the table, or the problem becomes worse, or your mistake catches up with you, or whatever the case may be. We're all going to pass away. Time is the one thing. You can buy everything that you want in the world if you have enough money, but you can never buy more time. Every second, every day that goes away is one day less that you can't get back. And so I started thinking about this even heavier, and I'm like, will we really have zero problems in heaven? Or will it be a matter of when things come up, they just don't matter because time is no longer a factor and nothing that happens will be a problem anymore because, we have forever, literally forever to figure it out. It's an endless supply of time. So why worry about anything? Oh, I'll take care of that next week, or I'll take care of that next millennia. What does it matter if you take 1,000 years to get your chores done? Who cares? You got a billion more years ahead of you before the next billion years. Like, you can't even wrap your head around the concept of eternity because we live in a finite world where time is a factor, and it's the one resource that you can't get more of. You can't get it back when it's gone. No matter how much money you have, we all have the same amount of time, figuratively speaking. I mean, some of us live, I'm going to live a long time because, as they say, only the good die young and assholes live forever. So I'm going to have a long, long life. I'm probably going to live to 100. I know it. But having an endless supply of time, we could have, my car could break down in heaven. Why not? But who cares? I ain't got to be nowhere. Not in a hurry anymore. I've got until eternity to get there. I'll fix that. I'll fix my car next century. Who cares? I'm gonna screw around doing something else in the meantime. I could fix it myself because I'd have 150 years to learn how to do it. And I'm be like, well, I can learn how to do all the I could be an automotive expert in heaven because I got nothing but time. I could fix I'd have a better car than a Volkswagen in heaven, hopefully a Jeep. But even so, I'm still gonna, maybe you have to fix it. I don't know. With once you take time away, nothing is a problem anymore. Um, but like over the last few weeks, man, ever since the weekend before Thanksgiving, I've been stuck mentally. It's the season, the dark, it's already dark outside. It's 6:30. It's pitch black out the windows. I hate that. It's cold for Houston. I mean, I'm not going to complain about 68 degrees today when it's 22 degrees up north. But it's just that time of year. I don't like the holidays. I haven't liked the holidays since I was a teenager. Never really. I'm not a fan of this time of year. I just don't like this time of year. And but I've been feeling like I'm in like survival mode for the last 2 to 3 weeks, partly because of that stuff going on with the car and other reasons. And this is like an ebb and flow in my life right now. I go from feeling on top to where I've got things starting to move in the right direction, and then I'm back in survival mode, and I'm in survival mode right now mentally. And just even though I'm not in a true survival situation, the same mental problems are making things difficult to navigate right now. And it's really just more of like a lack of focus. We call it the fight or flight mode. Once we begin to feel abnormal amounts of stress, regardless of whether you're trying to survive in the woods or whether you're just dealing with some problems at home, it's like the same concepts apply to both. The biggest reason people survive or die in real situations out in the wilderness or what have you are twofold. They're two different reasons, but they're closely related. The first one is they panic. They just stop thinking clearly. They flounder. They start making reactive decisions without thinking them through. And many times people like that just dig their hole deeper or make their situation even worse than it was. And then the second thing that people do is give up. They start to feel hopeless and they just give up completely. At which point, in a true survival situation, they basically find a place to go lay down and die. In a non-wilderness survival situation or something that's not a true survival situation, the panic can take the form of floundering around and trying to patch broken things or trying to fix something in a hurry without thinking it through, and you end up making the problem worse. You go to tighten a bolt and it breaks. You know what I mean? And it just, what would have been a simple fix now is going to be a massive problem because you just didn't take the time to do it right because you were in a hurry and you were panicked. As a programmer trying to meet a deadline an hour away, I could go on a segue here and give you a really funny story. You might write code trying to fix a bug that makes everything worse. In fact, I'll do it. We're 30 minutes in. This will take a couple of minutes. I worked for a company. We had a major software release due the very next day, like tonight. And it's like 4:45 in the afternoon. And I'm still trying to figure out, in a piece of software, after a person logs in, their name is supposed to show up at a certain place on the page. And for whatever reason, it was just blank and no name was showing up. It wasn't pulling the name out of the database and putting it there. And so I was testing things and I'm trying to figure out what is actually going on. What's the problem here? And so where the name is supposed to go, I typed in the words, "what the fuck," with a bunch of exclamation points in all caps because I was mad. We've been under pressure all for a month, especially the last few days. We're all burned out. And I just want to go home at this point. And I just have to figure this one stupid thing out and I can go home. And so I'm like, what the fuck, with a bunch of exclamation points on it. And I look at my screen, I refresh my browser, and what the fuck shows up right across the screen. And I'm like, so it's not a problem with the CSS code and the visual code or the HTML structure. That pointed to the problem being that the name is not being retrieved from the database and displaying as it's supposed to be. So it's troubleshooting. I could have just put some gobbledygook in there. I could have put first name, last name. I could have put something in there that was safe. But I put "what the fuck" going across the screen. Big capital letters, a bunch of exclamation points. Boom, 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 boom. Well, I fixed the problem. I figured out what was going on. Within another 5 minutes, I had it working, and the person's first name and last name shows up on the screen. And I checked in my code, and I go home. And I didn't think anything of it. And I come in the morning. Anybody who worked with me at this company, if you're watching right now, you're going to die. You're going to fall out of your chair because you're going to remember this. I come into work the next morning. I'm walking in. There was a guy. I took the trolley. We have a train system in Pittsburgh that came right by my house. One of my coworkers used to take the train. So we'd see each other a lot in the morning. I'd be, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm not going to name names, but we walked into the office together from the train station, and the chief technology officer sitting in his chair. We walk in, he looks up at me and he goes, "What the fuck?" And the office is dead quiet, dead silent. And this is like a rowdy group of people who all get along with each other. We're always joking and having a good time. There's music going. I mean, it's dead silent. And we walk in the room and the dude just looks straight at both of us, but he's looking at me and he's like, "What the fuck?" And I didn't even think about it. Like, it didn't register in my mind what was going on. And both of us, me and the guy who just walked in, were just like, "Yo, something's going on. I don't know what's going on yet." And then the chief technology officer, he takes his monitor, he turns it 180 degrees so that we can see it. And then once again, he goes, "Hey, Adam, what the fuck?" And going across the screen, it says, "What the fuck?" exclamation point going all the way across the screen. That's how the software got released that night. So all 900,000 customers or whatever that logged in that morning, when they logged in, the first thing that they see on their screen staring them in the face is "what the fuck" with a bunch of exclamation points. Instead of "welcome, comma, your first name and last name," it just said "welcome, what the fuck, going across the screen. And I'm like, oh shit. Guess I got to clean up my resume now. And the dude who came in with me, when he saw what was on the screen, he goes, "Oh, thank God it wasn't me." And he was like, da, 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 da. And he goes back to his desk, and he was just, and so now it's just me. I'm standing in the middle of this room, getting the stink eye from 30 people at once. And I'm like, oh shit. All right. So I go over to my desk and I start pulling open the drawers and start going through my stuff and open up my computer. And I'm like, literally, I'm just cleaning up because I'm like getting ready to go. Like, time to pack your stuff and go home and go look for another job at this point. And so about 20 awkward minutes go by and he comes over and he's like, "Hey, Adam, come with me." Went to the conference room, shuts the door. He's like, "Look, man." He's like, I'm not even going to give you full. He's like, I'm not even going to give you the whole blame. We were all in a hurry. We were all banging our heads against the wall. We were all slamming our fists on the desks. We were all mad. That was a clusterfuck that we had yesterday. He's like, that should have never made it to the live website. I don't know how the streams got crossed. They even found my code that worked. Somehow this thing got slipped in on top of the code that I checked in that worked, but somehow this got put in. I don't know, like maybe an undo, maybe a Command Z in the wrong place. There was code that worked, and then this got slipped in on top of it. But he even said, he's like, "Look, man, there's 25 different people that had to approve that before it went live. It wasn't just you." So all the quality control checkers, all the different people that had to sign off on this had to see this and sign off on it and hit a button to say, yes, let it go. There's 25 different people that should have called that out before it ever went live. So even though it was my mistake, and believe me, I'm looking around. People are just got their hand over their mouth. They're talking. They're falling out. They're trying not to show how hard they're laughing but it wasn't a good situation because the company's headquarters were in Boston and my office was in Pittsburgh, and there was about 30 of us there, and it made everybody in Pittsburgh look bad. Like it was they were looking at it like it was you guys fucked up. The people in Boston were mad at us, not me, but us, like everybody and it was my fault. But so anyway, we had this long talk, we understand that you were just screwing around, trying to figure out why the thing didn't work. And we see that you figured out how this got back in. I don't know. They could kind of see the pathway of how it happened. And they're like, yeah, this guy. I mean, 25 different people had to put their eyes on that, see it. But because we were in such a hurry to meet the deadline, it all got rushed through and nobody actually looked at it. And it was all just approved and went live. So the next morning when people started saying, what the fuck? Because that's what they had to shut the website down for about an hour to get this fixed. And prior to that, this company had been in business for like 6 years. They had never had any downtime. The website their app had never gone down. If it did, it would have been like for like a couple of seconds. It may have been like a hiccup, but no, they had to actually shut the platform down for an hour with a "we'll be right back." Like on the awkward TV show where like somebody comes in and they say something off the rails and all of a sudden, "We'll be right back," because they don't know what the hell to do. And now they got this big mess to clean up and it's a live show or whatever. Like somebody gets their head blown off on live TV and all of a sudden you see, "We'll be right back." Because hey, what else are you going to do? There's no commercials queued up. There's nothing ready. Just put up the sign, block it. That's what happened. And it was all my fault. And at the end of the day, they didn't fire me. In fact, they were like, I had to talk to the CEO. I had some embarrassing conversations that day, but by the end of the day, I was safe. My job was safe. They didn't want to get rid of me. They wanted me to make sure that I knew that, like, you're on like double secret probation. If you fuck up again, you're out the door. But, we get it. We're not like, we failed you is almost, they were almost saying, we failed you, Adam. Like, that should have never gone through the gatekeepers. That should have, I mean, somebody, it was so blatant and in your face that should have never gotten to the point of going live for the whole public to see. It happens. I'm not the only one with a story like that in my line of work. I'm just going to say it. I know other people who have similar stories. It's just bound to happen at some point when you do this kind of stuff for a living. I mean, look at the guy on CNN who got caught beating off during a Zoom meeting with his pants down. I mean, things happen. At least I didn't do that. At least I didn't show up with my dong hanging out in my hand on fucking Zoom. Forgot to turn the camera off. Right? So that's my story. That's my side trip. As a programmer, once again, you might be trying to meet a deadline and you might write code trying to fix a bug, but you're in such a hurry, everything is sloppy and you end up making everything worse. And that was a really extreme example of exactly that. We were all in such a hurry. We were just throwing shit at the wall, hoping it would stick, completely frustrated, angry. All of us were. We're all just in like a panic rush trying to get this thing out the door. And oh yeah, it went out the door. The wrong thing went out the door. That's for sure. You could be on a bicycle ride and you get a flat tire and you try fixing your tire and you end up with a bigger hole that can't be repaired. You end up ripping a hole in the side of your tire and you can't even get home now. I mean, panic. These are the things that happen when you're in that panic state of mind and you're not thinking about anything anymore and you're just hurry. We got to hurry. And on the flip side, on the giving up side, out in the wilderness, you might give up and just lay down somewhere and die. But on the home front, if it's not a true survival situation, you might experience paralysis to the point where you just become so overwhelmed by the problems that you're facing that you just stop trying to do anything about it and just look for some sort of escape for the day. It might just be leaving your computer to go watch TV and chill out somewhere. It might be binge eating or stress eating. I've been doing some of those. I might be completely unable to focus on a job, so I'll just find something that I can latch onto mentally to do and focus on that to keep my mind off of everything. When I set up this new microphone and the webcam that I'm using right now and this light that's got, the I don't even know what you would call this. It's a studio light, a mini portrait light. Portrait light would be a good term for it. I set these things up one day because I couldn't focus on anything else. And I looked behind me and I have a pile of stuff, unfinished projects. And I was like, now would be a good day to set this stuff up and test it out, see if it works. You got the live stream tomorrow. And so I did that, and it was more physical than mental, setting all this stuff up, and it allowed me to do something that was productive while keeping my mind away from things that were bothering me. And so, but on the wilderness side, a good example from the wilderness, and I had to relook up this story because I had the details wrong. But there was a woman in 2013. She was 66 years old. She was hiking the Appalachian Trail from Harper's Ferry, which is the halfway point, to Mount Katahdin in Maine, which is the northern end of the trail. And she had her husband meeting her at certain points to resupply her, to bring her food and things like that. He may have been hiking with her from time to time, but she was headed towards this area called the 100 Mile Wilderness in Maine. She wasn't quite there, but she was in that region, and she got off the Appalachian Trail to go to the bathroom. And within minutes, the forest was so dense that it basically swallowed every sign of the path, and she couldn't find her way back to the trail. And she was prepared to be out in the woods. She had a tent, a sleeping bag, food. She had a water filter. She had a satellite communicator, one of those beacons that you can press a button on if you panic or something happens. But she didn't have a paper map. She didn't have a compass. And she never learned how to navigate without a visible trail. So as soon as she lost the trail, she didn't know what to do. She even had a cell phone with an external battery to keep her cell phone charged, and she had offline maps on her phone. And that's how bad she was at navigating, that she couldn't find her way back to the trail. And now this is dense forest, and I have my own examples of I got lost. I'm not going to call it lost. It was stubborn. It was we went the wrong way. We knew we were going the wrong way, but we were stubborn, and we had to give up and go back. But 4 of us got, I'll just call it lost, but we weren't really lost. We knew where we were, but we didn't. It's a long, I don't like to admit it. We weren't lost, but it said that all of our things said go this way, but the trail went that way. And we were like, well, we may as well just follow the trail. Well, it wasn't the trail was actually a creek, and we were supposed to hike right up the middle of the creek. Well, the creek followed. We were all dead set on not hiking in the creek. I bet that trail just goes up and curves back around or whatever. Anyway, 4 of us, we all had laminated maps, compasses. All 4 of us had a phone with a GPS and offline maps saved to our phones. And one of us even had a dedicated Garmin GPS device. And we still could not navigate our way around this situation. And we ended up after a whole day of craziness, we ended up right back where we ate lunch, and we had to camp there for the night. We lost a whole day of our lives out of that situation. So it's on rugged terrain. Don't laugh too hard, because it could happen to you. She lived for 26 days wandering around this area, sending text messages that never went through, trying to use her satellite beacon. But the tree cover was too thick. She could never get a signal out. She kept climbing these ridges, looking for a signal. She'd get to the top of the ridge, and it would be covered in trees. Anyway, she became exhausted. She convinced herself that it was impossible to be rescued. She kept a journal as she was dying. And she wrote a final note saying whoever found her body to call her husband and daughter, put her phone number there, crawled into a sleeping bag, and died. And she was less than 2 miles away from the trail. She just kept going around in circles, going the wrong direction. She just didn't know what to do, so she panicked, and she didn't use logic to think her problem through. I know what I would do in that situation, but I'm pretty damn good at navigating, and you could drop me off in the middle of a wilderness like that with nothing, and I'd find my way out. I may not be happy about it. I may not enjoy the process, but I'd know what to do. If I was up there, I would know what to do. There's a lot of things you could do, but the same pattern that killed this woman plays out in everyday life when, we face setbacks that feel overwhelming. You might lose a job, a broken relationship. You might break up with somebody. You might have a health scare or a dream that seems unreachable all of a sudden can trigger the same spiral. We panic, convince ourselves that nothing we do will work, stop looking for the path, and just mentally lie down in that sleeping bag and wait to die. The difference is that in ordinary life, the trail is usually still right there, and it's usually only a few steps away. And if we stay calm and keep moving, ask for directions or just simply refuse to give up, we'll find our way back. But, this tragedy reminds us that giving up is one choice that turns a solvable problem into a fatal one, whether the forest is made of trees or of fear, right? Can't see the forest through the trees. The rescue people that went looking for her, they walked right by her camp. They were within 100 yards of her campsite. They never found her. The trees are thick there. I mean, you go off the trail and you're in some shit. But and in tree cover that thick, it's definitely easy to not know what direction is what, especially if you're not knowledgeable and you don't do this stuff all the time and you don't have a compass. Having a phone, it said she had a phone for several days and she kept it on airplane mode and would turn it on from time to time, look at her little dot. And I'm like, well, if you have a dot and there's the trail, like it should tell you what direction to go. Or turn on the phone, look at the dot, turn the phone off, walk in a straight line for a while, turn the phone back on, look at the dot. Did you get closer to the trail? Like, I don't get how you would get lost that bad with all that stuff with you, but I can also say I've kind of been there. So I don't, the 100-mile wilderness and that area of Maine it's no joke. If it were me, my decision would be walk one direction. But without a compass, that's hard to do. You could feel like you're walking in a straight line and end up going around in circles because one leg takes bigger strides than the other. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it happens a lot, even with people who are seasoned hikers and navigators. I know techniques to do it. I've had to do it before. It's called sight lining, where you just find something in a straight line and you never let it leave your sight until you reach that mark. And then you find another mark and you do it again and you do it again and you do it again. There's different things. Another tactic would be, if you're on a slope, hike down. Always hike down because you're going to find water. And then water is going to move in a certain direction. And when you follow water downstream, it leads to civilization. It leads to things. You might find a lake, but you could end up finding a marsh or a bog and a big lake with nothing in it. And then you got to figure out how to get around this lake. With just general knowledge of the region, everything civilization-wise is going to be east of where you are. Everything in Maine goes up towards the coast or the east side of the state. If you start going west, you're making your situation worse. I would at least have the instinct to know, go east. At least that would be, you might cross back. If she had gone east, she would have crossed back over the path. She would have, but even if she had crossed the trail, there's no guarantee she would have known it was the trail, because the white marks for the Appalachian Trail might be so far apart that you could walk right past it and not know you saw it. So, but anyway, I know what I would do in that situation. I would not just lay down and die, or I wouldn't do what she did. But the place is crazy. You could find a dirt road. You could find a forest road, a dirt road that would take you nowhere useful. And you could hike on a dirt road for days and never find another person or find another thing. There's forest roads that go through that area that are just dirt roads, fire roads that you might not see anybody on for a year. And so you don't know. But she had a satellite beacon. So if you found a road, you're going to have a clearing in the trees. You're going to be able to use a beacon to get out a text message, an emergency signal, whatever the case may be. I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that are weird about that story, but she just wasn't a navigator. She wasn't prepared for this. And she got lost and didn't know what to do. Leave breadcrumbs. If you decide that you are going to just bushwhack your way to freedom, head east, whatever, do something to mark your path. Like, do something to mark your way so that, like, leave something somewhere that if somebody sees a mark, tie a piece of ribbon to a tree or whatever every 500 yards, I don't know, with an arrow. Make an arrow out of something and say, I'm going this way. She had the means to leave notes. I mean, I carry a Write in the Rain pad with a Write in the Rain pen, so I could leave a waterproof note tacked to a tree somehow. I mean, I don't know. I mean, she, like I said, she had a way to charge her phone. She had an external battery pack. She had a fully charged iPhone and a 10,000 milliamp hour power bank. That's you can get like 5 recharges out of that, and running it in airplane mode, you'll get 2 days out of your phone. She had for the first 4 or 5 days, she had her phone working because they were able to figure out everything that happened to her. She kept her phone in airplane mode and only turned it on to check her GPS from time to time and try to send texts through her beacon. But on the 7th day, the phone and the power bank were both dead, and she didn't have a solar panel. She had no way to charge it. One thing I carry with me sometimes is a crank. Eaton makes a nice one of those crank flashlight things. Eaton makes one that's pretty nice, and it's fairly compact, and the dynamo is really good. You got to try these things out at home before you go out into the woods. But the Eaton one, especially the crank, that was good enough to charge a phone. Now, it's not going to, you're going to be cranking that thing for 3 days to get your phone charged. But if you have, like, cranking it for 5 to 10 minutes would be enough to turn on the phone, check your GPS. You could even keep cranking the thing while the phone is on. And, like, you'd be able to get some use out of your phone by doing that thing. I do have a little solar panel that can charge a phone. I don't know where it is. It's not here in Houston with me, but I do have one of those. Anyway, she was using, I mean, she had Appalachian Trail maps on her phone offline with the GPS. But she had no paper maps and she had no compass. So, honestly, from the description of her, even with a compass, she probably wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm sure you could figure that thing out pretty quick if you needed to, but she was going by guesswork, and her whole thing was to keep going up in the hopes of the higher elevation you'd get a better signal and be able to get a signal out to somebody. But by doing so, she was going the opposite direction from the trail, and she kept digging herself deeper and deeper into the woods by doing that. And she ended up becoming more and more remote and harder to find. Several of her journal entries mention her frustration that the phone was dead and that she couldn't see where she was on the map anymore. But once again, if she had a phone working for 7 days while she was lost, how would you not be able to figure out my dot is here, the trail is over here, walk that way? Like, I just don't. Something was off. I even have the coordinates of where she was found here if I go into maps. Could share the screen. Or wait a minute, I just go like that. Boom. This is where she was found. Almost exactly where she was found. But I mean, look at this. All these roads that you see are just dirt forest roads. They're not real roads. Actually, that one's the Appalachian Trail itself. So that's where the trail is. She was over here, right off the trail. This thing here is a dirt forest road of some kind, but you can't even see it through the trees. And then there's a creek here. But if you look at the terrain, I was just curious. I'm like, she's on a slope. She kept climbing this mountain behind her and going up into this area here. She kept going up into this elevation up here trying to get a signal. But even at the top of this elevation here, nothing but trees. There's no bald spots. There's no, I mean, there's there's a couple of clearings here. There's a clearing there, but how would you'd have to be, it would be hard to find if you were just trying to bushwhack your way through that. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, I would have found something like that just by walking in a straight line. Here's a big open rock face. Like, you're going to find something if you just get off your ass and go. She ended up hunkering down, going around in circles in this one small little space. There's a creek down here that flows south into the east. If she had followed that, if she could have followed this stream all the way down into this area and eventually found her way down to this area here, and she would have probably found some sort of civilization or some help or something at some point. But that's a hike. But I mean, if you start walking in a straight line, if I said, screw it, I'm going east, and let's just say I walked right past the Appalachian Trail, but then I come across another branch of the trail here, like, I would have two chances to get back on the trail there and know that I got to go north. And then another trail, I'm going to come up, there's another trail here. And then if I just keep going, I mean, this is not easy terrain. This is mountainous, big mountains, But if I just said, I'm going east, I don't care. I'm going east, east, east until I can't. Because east will get you to Route 27 over here. And however many miles it is, you could eventually find your way there. I mean, but this is not, like, I'm not trying to discredit this chick. She's in the middle of this area. The Navy, the military uses this area for training grounds because it's so remote and the terrain is so difficult that even military people get, it's hard for them to navigate this stuff, let alone a 66-year-old woman. But I don't know. I guess I've just spent enough time in the woods and gotten into enough messes and had, I've been through enough things that you could drop me off in that same spot and I'd find my way out. I might, like I said, I might not enjoy my life doing it, but I could do it. Like, I have no doubt in my mind. But like I said, friends and I, we got lost in an area with 4 laminated maps, compasses, 4 cell phones, and a GPS with a dedicated GPS unit. And I'll just show you. I'll show you where it was. Once again, it was the Dolly Sods Wilderness of West Virginia. And if we just look at the terrain, that tells you everything you need to know. This plateau so we started out down here where you see this Red Creek trailhead, and we hiked up this notch. We camped down here and had a really good time swimming in the creek and drinking lots of beer. That probably played a part in what happened the next day. But we climbed up this crevasse here, and we were right about here at the top of this notch, at the top of the plateau-ish. And all the trails were going this way, where my cursor's moving. I don't know if you can see it, to the east, and you see there's a ski resort over here. We had to go north and this way. We were trying to get to this spot right here where my cursor is. Like, I'll just put a what's here. So we were trying to get to that marker. Come on, show it. What's here? There you go. We were trying to get to this marker right here from this notch here. And we ended up going this way. And we knew we were going the wrong way pretty quick. But then we tried to bushwhack our way this way. We tried to force things along to get back across all of this terrain. And what happened was we ended up in a big bog. Like, I'm going to say like right around here somewhere. I don't even know. I can't really see it. I'm going to say in this area here, we ended up in a big heath bog. Mud up to our waist and beyond. It was like quicksand. I took one step and it just went down and I was up over my waist in this nasty mud. And we were all mad. We were all like screaming and yelling and mother effing and this and that. We were all pissed off because no matter what, We basically had to get from here to there. You can see there's a break in the trail here. And we were trying to get from point A to B, at which point we could find our way over to this, and we could find our way back into the wilderness. But this is some very remote, difficult stuff to hike. I mean, the satellite is not showing it justice. This is a gnarly place to hike. It's one of the most difficult places to hike in the Northeast United States. This is one of the craziest places to hike, and it's not marked. The trails aren't marked. It's a designated wilderness, so they can't paint the trees. You have to be really good. I wouldn't take my son there. My son was an avid camper. I wouldn't take him there. Like, no way, it's too dangerous. Maybe when he gets a little older. But we weren't the first ones to find ourselves in this heath bog, because one of my friends, she goes, "Hey, look what I found." And laying on top of the heath bog, she's waist deep in this nasty heath bog mud that we just fell into. And she looks over, and there's a brand new Leatherman tool sitting right on top of the mud, just waiting for her to pick it up. She had a brand new Leatherman multi-tool, this beautiful brand new Leatherman tool with all the gadgets on it. She just picked it up right off the ground. We were not the first people that got hoodwinked by thinking we could go in a straight line and then we ended up in this. And then we had to turn around, and we had to hike all the way back to that notch where we had eaten lunch. And it was like, we were like an hour away from sunset when we got back there, and we had to set up camp for the night. And we were literally a mile away from where we started out that morning. So we spent an entire day. We spent like 12 hours hiking to end up a mile away from where we started, and we were mad. And it ruined the whole weekend for us, because all of our plans got completely thrown away. So, but it was more out of stubbornness. We should have just turned around and realized that, we got to hike up this creek. So the next day we figured out, the creek is the trail. You hike up the creek, getting your feet wet. And then eventually the trail veers off and goes its own way, and the creek goes that way. And the creek is the trail. And, we knew what we did wrong, but we were stubborn. We're like, we'll find our own way to get back to where we're supposed to go. No, you won't. Not all. And so that, like, I've been through things like this where, I mean, just look at this region. Look at this whole region. Like, this is where we were, but just look at that terrain all through that area. You don't necessarily get to go in a straight line when this is what you're looking at everywhere you turn. This plateau is all wilderness with no trees. It's a crazy place. I'll show you a photo that I took. The photo that's right on my homepage here, that photo was taken at that place. This photo right here. So this is it's remote. It's barren. There's not. It's like, you can't just walk in a straight line from here to that parking lot in the distance. It's not going to happen. There's a way that you have to go, because it's a cliff. You're going to fall 300 feet. You don't always get to pick what direction you want to go out in the wilderness like that. So, but now that we've been talking for an hour, I think that right about now would be a good time to jump into the topic of the day, which is what that says right on the thumbnail: freedom for me, but not for thee. And so it kind of started out, I was listening to a guy, his name, he was an Alex Jones cohort. His name is Owen Schroyer, or Owen. He's got a tongue twister of a name, Owen Schroyer from InfoWars. On YouTube, he's got about 17,000 subscribers, which honestly, that's kind of low for someone who's on InfoWars with their own little side channel. He's got 27,000 followers on Rumble, which makes a lot of sense, because Rumble probably promotes him. If you're already a big name, Rumble will make you bigger. But if you're nobody, they won't do anything. You got to bring your own followers. He's got 427,000 followers on X, which so that's not surprising. In the and I was watching a video about how Trump and the Republicans are getting ready to send another $800 million to Ukraine. And I'm like, yeah, sounds about right to me. I'm about sick and tired of Donald Trump. And so I'm kind of, I'm having a good time listening to other people that have not bought into the MAGA cult. In fact, I look at the MAGA cult. I talk about this. These Republican retards running around with their MAGA hats are just as much of a retarded cult as these COVID-19 idiots wearing the masks on their face in 2025. It has nothing to do with anything other than putting on a public advertisement as to which cult you're a member of. And, it's no different than the Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. And so, but the thing, I get really upset about these Democrats and Republicans because it's like the parable that Jesus used all the time. You're more than willing to point out the sliver in somebody else's eye, but you ignore the plank in your own eye. So any of the if you go back to the cult members, the woman wearing the mask and all her retarded friends, they can tell you every single bad thing Donald Trump ever did. But if you tell them about all the corruption of Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, all of their heroes, they'll just gonna put their fingers in their ears and go, no, I didn't hear you. I'm not hearing that. Only Republicans are bad. Democrats are good. And it's the same thing with these fucking MAGA retards. They know everything every Democrat ever did that was wrong, going all the way back through history, but Donald Trump can do no wrong. And I don't buy it. I am not drinking the Kool-Aid from either one of these stupid ass cults. Like, I have the ability to look at a turd and call it a turd. It doesn't matter whether the turd is red or blue. It's a turd. A bowl of dog shit or a bowl of cat shit. If you're going to ask me which one tastes the best, you try it. Yeah, it ain't for me. So this is where I'm coming from, We're going to send Donald Trump now. He's going to send MAGA. He's going to send Ukraine another $800 million. And I'm thinking about this for a minute. And I'm like, let's do some math. $800 million aside from the billions we've already sent him so that he can buy a new Bugatti. He can get another mansion. Him and all his cronies. Like, they're living large off of the money that we send them to fund this bullshit war. So some two-bit ass clown dictator that used to play a piano with his dick can be rich on our dime. And when the fuck do we get some of our money? When does America get some money? When do we get to spend our tax money on Americans? I don't fucking know. I looked it up on AI, and it says the average American taxpayer pays approximately $13,890 a year in federal income tax, and that's the average. So if you use the average for $800 million, 57,595 people had to pay all of their income tax for an entire year to make one payment to that two-bit ass clown shit dictator so that, once again, he can buy himself a Bugatti and another fucking mansion. 57,000 people had to pay their entire income tax for a year. 57,000 people had to work until June to pay our government to send a dictator enough money to buy a new mansion. So, I mean, do you see why I keep saying that voting isn't going to fix a damn thing? Voting is not going to fix a damn thing. I mean, I know it needs to be done, but I'm not going to say it because, somebody's watching. But voting, what a joke. I'm never voting again. I mean, I'm not going to have anything to do with that shit. I got better. I'd rather pull out my pubic hairs individually with a tweezer for 6 hours than go vote. I'm done with that. But see, the thing is, if we do what needs to be done, the problem is that's exactly what the federal government wants us to do, because the people in charge are trying to provoke the general public. We've already seen it happen. They've already been provoked. How many cities have been burned to the ground because George Floyd got killed? You know, how many times did we watch that play out? This is exactly what the federal government wants us to do, because then that becomes the justification for officially on the books terminating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and pretty much turning America into a permanent dictatorship at that point. So no matter what, we're done. This country's done. It doesn't even matter what you do. You could vote, you could go join the revolution, whatever you're going to do. The revolution won't be televised, just like they said, just like the song says, and we're all screwed. And so, like I said, freedom for me, not for thee. The MAGA hat people and the COVID people, they got no problem using the police state. They don't want to get rid of the police state. They're fine with this woman in the mask. She would be fine with the police state if Mr. MAGA hat over here could go to jail for something stupid, like maybe 2 years in prison for a Twitter post. And Mr. MAGA hat here would be fine using the police state against this woman in the COVID mask, if, you know, for a Twitter post as well. They don't have a problem with the police state as long as they can use the police state against the other cult. I personally would like to just get rid of the fucking police state, but that's just, you know, that's just me. So I found an example of what the Republicans do, what they want to do in order to pull the police state down over our heads. And there's so much to unpack here. So there's this guy on Twitter. He's a famous guy or whatever. His name is Jack Posobiec. I don't know who he is. I don't know a lot about him. He's just one of these pundits. You might know him better than me. I don't really pay any attention. I followed him on X, and this came up. 2 Twitter posts. I mean, this says it all. And we're gonna dig deep into this. He posted 2 things on X 4 minutes apart. 4 minutes apart. The first one was a post about Tina Peters. If you're not familiar with who Tina Peters is, it's a woman in Colorado who exposed all the election fraud going on, and they put her in prison for it. And she got like a 35-year prison sentence for exposing the election fraud in Colorado. And she's going to die in prison now. And she's already old. Look at her. She's the one in the middle. And Jack Posobiec says DOJ investigates Colorado prison housing Tina Peters over civil rights violations. So she has civil rights in jail. All the Republicans, I believe in it, she should be free. She should not be in prison for the rest of her life for exposing election fraud. I'm going to take your side there. And she does have civil rights. She has the civil right not to go to a kangaroo fucking court and get sentenced to 35 years in prison. And what happened to the people that rigged the election? Nothing. They're walking among us. They're free. So I'm not saying this post is anything wrong, but 4 minutes later, he posts this. Breaking news. Tyler Robinson's parents have been conducting virtual visits with their son in jail. Yeah. You're allowed to have visitors when you're in jail. Like, this says it all. Look, go back to this. DOJ investigates Colorado prison housing Tina Peters over civil rights violations. And the very next post, 4 minutes later, this guy has been getting visits in jail from his parents. Right. He hasn't gone to trial yet. He is sitting in jail for, he's the guy who supposedly killed Charlie Kirk. And so what you're saying is the Republicans are mad that his parents are allowed to talk to him while he's in jail. I was able to talk to people when I was in jail. I could make phone calls. I could have, when they're talking about virtual visits, it's either a kiosk that's on the wall of a cell block with a camera on it, and you're somebody on the outside basically pays $30 to have a 15-minute video visit with you, where you all sit in front of a camera for 15 minutes, and it barely works. And most of the time it cuts out. It's like a bad stream that keeps cutting out, but you can have like a video chat, a video visit with the other person for about 15 minutes. You're allowed to do it once or twice a week. It's super expensive. It's a ripoff, but you can do it. I was allowed to have visitors in jail. I was allowed to do these video visits. I was allowed to make phone calls. So is this guy. So what you're telling me, Jack Posobiec, Tina Peters, who's in prison for an unjust reason, and I will fully agree on that. She has rights. This guy, he hasn't even gone to trial yet. He doesn't have rights. He should not be allowed to visit his parents, is what you're saying. And so, this is what I'm getting. This is like, once again, Tina Peters has civil rights. Tyler Robinson has no rights. Doesn't even, I guess he doesn't even have the right to be innocent until he's proven guilty in a court of law. You know, and I mean, isn't that the same as when Democrats decide that Republicans don't have any rights? Remember what the Democrats did to the January 6th people? You know, I personally know a January 6th guy. He's famous. You can look him up. I'm giving you enough to find him right now. He pepper sprayed a cop in front of the Capitol, and the next day the cop died from a heart attack or something, and they tried to charge him with murder, but it didn't stick. They locked him in solitary confinement in a tiny little jail cell for 28 months. And then they sentenced him to like 9 years in prison. 28 months in a tiny little cell, only allowed out of his cage once every 4 or 5 days for about 20 minutes to go take a shower. No association with the other inmates. Visitation was probably severely restricted. Now, Jack Posobiec, or whatever his name is, probably would have had a problem with that, while the Democrats are saying, oh, that guy got to take a shower. Breaking. January 6th defendant got to take a shower. How dare they? He doesn't deserve to take a shower. Fuck him. Right? That's what we're looking at right here. They'd probably get mad if Jack Posobiec found out this dude took a shower. He'd throw a fit. You know what I mean? But anyway, this is proof that now you wonder why. Why did I take a plea deal? Why did I go in front of the judge and just plead guilty? Who the fuck's going to be on my jury if I go to trial? I'm going to have some douchebag here like Jack Posobiec who says I'm guilty before he even shows up to jury duty. He's not going to pay any attention to the trial. He's already made up his mind. Guilty, guilty, guilty. He thinks I should be in prison for the rest of my life for mean tweets. And when the jury comes to, he's going to fall asleep during the trial because he's not paying any attention. He's already made up his mind. And when he goes back to the room to deliberate, they're going to take about 2 minutes to come back out and say, I'm guilty. Why the fuck would I even bother with that? Because when I'm found guilty, I'd get 10 years in jail. That's exactly what would happen. I've seen it happen. I've watched jury duty selection before. I've seen it with my own eyes. I watched a woman openly say in front of the judge, when the judge asked her if she would be biased, she said, well, I don't see how, if he wasn't guilty, why would he have been arrested? He's obviously guilty. Why? If he didn't do it, he wouldn't have been arrested. Okay, you're free to be on the jury. They put her on the fucking jury after she said that openly in court. Everybody in the courtroom was like, holy shit. This old 80-year-old woman that looked like Sally Fields probably never smoked a joint in her life. She probably never even drank a beer. Like, already, well, if you've been arrested, you wouldn't have been arrested if you weren't guilty. So, like, I'm like, you're cooked. Whoever that defendant was cooked on the spot. Had no chance in hell. She's on the jury. What do you think's going to happen to me? I've heard the story. I've heard the story a million times. All right, so let's take a quick dive here and look at the comments in real time. Let's look at the comments under Tina Peters. The unjust Tina Peters being in prison. Here's my comment. We're just going to skip over that. Democrats haven't been this mad at Republicans since we freed their slaves. Well, we're looking in Colorado prisons. Let's maybe revisit this banger. I don't know. Something about her crime exposing massive fraud election in Colorado. Stan, okay, you're real funny there. When will attorney Pam Bondi arrest Jenna for destroying election records? This needs to be a much higher priority. Dear President Trump, can't you build a fire under your people to get this done? Well, you can't because it's Colorado. It's not the federal government, so Trump has no say in it. Why announce the visit? The prison will clean it up to avoid violations, then go back to their same old ways. I bet they get gourmet meals during the inspection, and that is absolutely true. That is 100% true. Yes, they will make it look like nothing bad ever happens in that jail. They will all be eating filet mignon and lobster on their prison trays while the inspections are going on. That is 100% true. Send in the marshals. That's the only way to get her out. Pam Bondi is useless. Once again, the U.S. Marshals can't just go into a state prison because that's a federal entity, but whatever. But anyway, you see it all. All of these prisons don't like thorough investigations. I hope their books and records are up to date, blah, blah, blah. They're all on her side. But let's take a look at what they have to say about this guy. This is the fair trial that I would have been. Now, my comment was, yes, you're allowed. Are we just going to start executing people now without a trial or trying to find out what the FBI is hiding and lying to us about? I'm not saying that the guy. What I'm saying is it has all the hallmarks of an FBI-sponsored patsy. There's more to the story. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with that Charlie Kirk thing that MAGA, because, MAGA, because Trump can do no wrong and she's a grieving widow. I mean, all I got to say is, God, there's so much weird stuff going on with that. I don't even know, what. I just got to find something here. Bear with me a second. I wasn't prepared totally for this, but it shouldn't be hard to find. Boom, there it is. So, I mean, it is weird. But, I mean, this Erica Kirk, she is definitely going through the 5 stages of grief, the pyrotechnics, the merchandise, the podcasting, grifting, and then finally acceptance. I mean, there's just a lot of weird stuff going on with this. And if you pay attention, you can't deny it. It has all the hallmarks of a government-sponsored psyop of some kind. So, yeah, I might like to get to the bottom of that. If the guy shot the guy, okay, fine. But there's something else. There's more going on. There's more going on. There's so much stuff there. But anyway, let's just go through. How is this breaking? I would expect his parents to visit him. This is clickbait at its worst. Now, this wasn't this was not the comments that I was seeing the other day. Charlie Kirk's kids, meanwhile, have not been able to visit their dad. I wish Charlie Kirk's kids had the same opportunity. There was a lot of people in the comments here, and I'm trying to find it. There was a whole bunch of people that said we should hang him. He should be executed. He did it. He's guilty. This piece of shit needs to be held accountable for his heinous crimes. However, we have a due process. There we go. So, but the other day when I was the comments have changed because most of the comments that I saw under here were basically like, fuck him, execute him now, hang him now, kill him in jail, blah, blah, blah. Like nobody wants to even see him go to trial. They're just like, kill him now. What a horrible, but anyway, now they're all calling him out for calling this breaking news. So this kind of backfired on me a little bit because all the comments under here were all comments in regard to kill him, he deserves to die. You know, it's changed quite a bit. Okay, so anyway, there was this whole attitude on there about who cares, kill him, get rid of him, he doesn't deserve to live, blah, blah, blah. It's like, doesn't he get a trial? And the trial isn't for him, it's for all of us. The trial is supposed to be so that all of us can learn the facts about what happened. So, like, if there were other people involved, like one of the things that happened was they paved over, they put like fresh concrete down on the crime scene and just covered it all up, like within a day or two. Like that's one of the hallmarks of a psyop or some sort of staged event where they just come in and bulldoze the whole scene to the ground and cover everything up, put new concrete over it, replace the roof of the building. Like I don't know what I don't know all the details. I have other things to care about. But once again, this is why I took a plea deal. I didn't even take a plea deal. I just threw myself at the mercy of the court and rolled the dice to see what I get because I thought that would be a better deal than going to a trial in some bullshit kangaroo court with a jury that's already made up their mind because they saw me on Fox News, who are going to fall asleep for 3 days and then take 2 minutes to call me guilty. It's impossible to get 12 jurors to agree that you're innocent unless you're rich. And so, I mean, in my case, they might have had 1 or 2 holdouts out of the 12, but they're all gonna want to go. Nobody wants to go to jury duty when you're making $8 a day to be there. And you have to keep your mouth shut. And you can't talk to anybody. You can't talk about the case. They might even sequester you and put you up in a hotel room during the whole length of the trial, so you can't even see your family or talk to anybody on the phone or anything. Like, you are in prison in some cases. When you're a juror, you're actually in jail to be on a jury. They're just going to come to a compromise so they can go home. They're not going to sit and argue about whether you're innocent or guilty for 10 days to get their $8 a day and be sequestered and kept away from their lives. They're going to be like, how about we find them guilty of this, this, and this, and we'll say not guilty on the rest. And in my case, just one of the 14 counts would have been enough to put me away for 5 to 10 years. And they do that when you have the audacity to exercise your right to a trial. They get mad about it because you wasted the court's time. We live in a banana republic. We don't live in a free country. And in a banana republic, when you waste the judge's time, they're going to give you the maximum sentence at that point to retaliate against you wasting their time. I had a fishing trip planned, and because I had to do this fucking trial, I had to go to work, and I had to come in and bang my gavel on the desk and wear this stupid robe and blah, blah, blah. So you're guilty as fuck. You're going to jail for 10 years. That's what they'll do. The prosecutors, they throw all kinds of bullshit charges on your counts. So I was originally charged with 1 count of 1 crime, and all of a sudden 4 days later, they got a grand jury to indict me on 14 counts of all this bullshit, because now it's for the prosecutor to win, for the defense, for me to win, I have to get a jury to say not guilty to all 14 charges. Just 1 is enough to put me away for years. But for a prosecutor to win, he only has to get the jury to say guilty on 1 of the 14. So that's why the prosecutor will just stack up a bunch of bullshit charges that should be dismissed and just pile them on. They call it stacking. That's the technical term for it. And like I said, the jury's going to get together. They're going to fall asleep during your trial. They're not going to pay attention to anything. They saw it on the news. They know you're guilty already. They don't care. They got called away from their life to come make $8 a day to sit in a wooden chair for 6 days and make $8 a day for it. They just want to go home. So you're guilty. Fuck it. Get me out of here. And the fastest way for them to get home is to say guilty, 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 and I'm out. That's what they're going to do. They don't know that guilty of just, if they come to a compromise, the person that's a holdout doesn't want to see you go to prison, decides, well, we'll find him not guilty of 12 and convict him guilty of 2. Well, even if it's just say, we'll throw 13 of them out and we'll charge him guilty on the 1. That 1 would result in a sentence 4 times longer than me pleading guilty to all 14 of them. So I pled guilty to 14 counts so that I would get a sentence less than I would get if I was found guilty of just 1 count at the end of a trial. And it was like, it would have been 4 times longer. It could have been 10 years. And you don't think these fucking scumbags give a shit about sending you up the river for 10 years over a Twitter post? They'll do it. The system's corrupt. They're corrupt. All these people in the high places are corrupt. You can't get into a position like that without molesting a kid on Epstein Island or doing some crazy shit. You can't even get in that club without passing a test. So, it's bullshit. They tell you that you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But if you've ever experienced this, you know that's total bullshit. It's complete and total bullshit. In America, you are guilty as charged until you can prove that you're innocent. I'll give you an example. Some of you may live in a state like this. I'm going to tell you, in Pennsylvania, if you get a speeding ticket, which is about who hasn't gotten a speeding ticket in their life. So a lot of you can relate to this, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay. In Pennsylvania, when you get a speeding ticket, if you plead not guilty, you still have to send the money to pay the fine along with your not guilty plea. And why? I thought I was innocent until you prove that I'm guilty. So why do I have to pay a fine before that you prove I'm guilty? And then if I'm proven to be innocent, then you'll send it back to me in the form of a check about 3 weeks later. But I have to pay the fine and take the punishment first and then prove that I'm innocent because I'm already guilty. If I have to pay a fine for a speeding ticket, then I'm automatically guilty to start with, and I have to go to court to prove that I'm innocent. If I was innocent until I'm proven guilty, I could go to court without having to pay the fine and then pay the fine and be punished for it if I was found guilty. Do you see what I'm saying? You are guilty up front, and then you get to go to court and try to prove that you're innocent. That's how the shit actually works. You get the ticket, you check off not guilty, and then you pay your fine. You got to take money out of your bank. You got to figure out how to pay the fine and have your life completely turned upside down and disrupted to plead not guilty, but you still have to pay the fine. And then you go to court, and if you can prove in court that you're not guilty and the judge agrees, they'll send you about 3 weeks later, you get a check in the mail. You get the money that you paid them back. Since when? How the fuck is that innocent until proven guilty? You were punished first. You were found guilty first. You paid the fine first. Then you go to court and you try to convince them that you're innocent. And if they say that you're innocent, you wait 3 more weeks and you get your money back. That's not innocent until proven guilty. Who the fuck can believe that? But that's how it works. At least that's how it works in Pennsylvania. I have actually stretched out speeding tickets by not sending the money in when I plead not guilty. One time I got a speeding ticket I pled not guilty. I didn't send the money. About 3-4 weeks later, I get a nasty letter in the mail saying you've got 10 days to send in the money or we'll issue a warrant for your arrest. I pled not guilty. They won't even schedule a court date for me to come in. They said, you've got 10 days to pay this fine, and then we'll schedule a court date. And if you refuse to pay the fine, we'll issue a warrant for your arrest and you'll be put in jail for not paying the fine for the thing that you haven't even been convicted of yet. That's guilty. That's guilty until you prove that you're innocent. That's how it works. So I waited 9 days. Then I went over to the office, which was around the corner, and I paid the fine. And then about 3 weeks later, I get a court date in the mail, which is like 2 months away. And so I show up in court, and my case was dismissed because the judge told me that the police officer who wrote me the ticket was fired from the police force. And literally, because I waited so long and I dragged this thing out through the mud for months by not paying the fine, but they threatened to arrest me for that. And then I went and paid the fine, and then I went to court. And then like a month later, I got my check in the mail. I got my fine back. But that's guilty until you prove that you're innocent. I mean, let's talk about a guy who got away with killing his wife. Let me take a drink here. I mean, anybody think O.J. Simpson was innocent? No, right. Exactly. You don't even have to leave it in the text. I already know what you're thinking. But O.J. Simpson was not guilty of killing his wife. Yeah. Did you know O.J. Simpson spent a total of 474 days in the Los Angeles County Jail during the pre-trial, like waiting for his trial before he was found not guilty by the court? So, now I'm going to admit, spending a year and some change in jail for killing your wife, that's a pretty fair trade. That's not a bad deal. But that's how the system works. Once again, if you are lucky and rich enough to be found not guilty, you still spent a ridiculous amount of time in jail waiting to be not guilty. You were put in jail. That's what they do when you're guilty. You go to jail and you wait to go to court. And I knew people at the Butler County Jail in Pennsylvania who had been sitting in that jail for 6 years. 6 years without a court date. Spending 6 years in jail without a trial. Guilty. That's guilty. That's not what you get when you're innocent. That's what you get when you're guilty. So even though he was not guilty of killing his wife, he still spent over a year, he spent like a year and some change in jail for killing his wife. So he still went to jail for killing his wife. It just wasn't as long as most of us would go to jail for if we killed our spouse. I mean, now later on in life, he did serve 9 out of 33 years that he was sentenced for robbing a casino down. I mean, hey, if you wanted people to believe that you didn't kill your wife, what better way to prove it than by robbing a casino? I don't know. But he got sentenced to 33 years. 33, the magic number. We've been talking about the Freemasons a little bit. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. We're just going to leave it at that. He had a 33-year sentence. He served 9 out of that. I mean, if I were OJ, I would have just chilled out after. If I got away with killing my wife, I'd probably mellow out and be like, you know what? Whatever I had to rob the casino, let it slide. Let it slide. Whatever the casino had something of his, or I don't know. He thought they had something of his, like some memorabilia or something, like an old football, or I don't know, like an old running back trophy or whatever. I don't know. And he was breaking into the casino to get it back. I don't know. Like, I would just like, let it slide, dude. Let it slide. You got to kill your wife. Can't be happy with that. So I don't know. The OJ thing, this is a little bit of a side trip from the main topic, but the OJ thing was a psyop. We're talking about psyops. I think one reason why you're never going to get a fair trial in America is because of OJ, because we watched this national scandal where the OJ show was on TV every single day, all day long. And that's back when we had like 3 channels on the TV. Every time you turn on the TV is nothing but the OJ show. His whole trial was this national spectacle. I mean, we've never seen a trial on TV like the OJ trial before or since. They televised it. Everybody who was alive then remembers the OJ trial. And I think he got away with it on purpose. They wanted America to see that if you're rich, you can get away with killing your wife. And now you've got juries that automatically convict people when they go to court. Like Sally Fields. When I was waiting to be called up for jury duty, I see Sally Fields stand up in front of the judge, and when he asked her if she could be impartial, she said, well, I don't see how this guy could be innocent, because if he got arrested, that means he's guilty. Okay, you can go, you're juror number 15, go have a seat over there. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody, people, we were all looking at each other in the courtroom. We're like, did we just see this? Did we all, am I sleeping right now, or did we just watch this happen? That's a result of the OJ trial. People got so mad that this guy got away with killing his wife that now when the jury shows up to the trial, you're automatically guilty. We're not going to let you get away with a crime. We're not going to let these guilty people get away with it ever again. And now you've got the federal government has a 98, 99% conviction rate. You get arrested by the FBI, forget it. You're guilty. That's the end of it. And even if you're not guilty, you're going to serve 6 to 10 years in jail waiting for your fucking trial. I've seen it. I watched people sitting in jail for 6 years. 6 years waiting for a trial date. Because they'll play their games and they just keep extending it and kicking the can down the road. You could be looking at a 4-year prison sentence and serve 6 years before you go to trial. So when they dangle that sheet of paper in front of you, well, if you sign a plea deal, if you say you're guilty, you can go home right now. That's how they get a 98, 99% conviction rate. And then when they do go to trial, it's still something like, so like it's 98% conviction rate, but most of them don't go to trial because if you got a federal, if the federal government would charge you with jaywalking, instead of paying a fine, it would be 6 years in prison for jaywalking if the federal government charged you with it. But you can take a plea deal to get 24 months. So, but if you go to trial and you're found guilty, it's going to be a 6-year sentence. But you can plead guilty and we'll give you 2 years. But we're going to make you sit in court for at least 1.5 years before we even put the deal in front of you. And if you decide to go to trial, you're going to sit in jail for 4 years, so that even if you're found innocent, you spent twice as much time as you would have spent in jail had you just pled guilty in the first place. Like, what do you fucking do in that situation? It's so fucking crooked. But this whole OJ show made it even worse because now, like I said, old people in this country, they were mad as hell that they saw this guy get away with killing his wife. So whoever gets called up for jury duty, they're automatic. It's an automatic guilty now. We're not going to let anybody get away with this stuff anymore. Guilty. They won't even pay attention to the trial. I had people, when I was in Danbury, Connecticut, listening to people talk about their trial, it was one story after the next. The jury fell asleep during my trial for 3 days and the judge didn't do anything about it. Crooked ass judge did this. My public defender was shot down, not even allowed to talk. Like, just all kinds of crooked shit. You can't believe everything everybody says. But I did know the January 6th guy who was held in solitary confinement for 28 months pled guilty so that he could go to a low security prison and play pickleball for the remainder of his 9-year sentence. And then Donald Trump gave him a pardon on his first day on January 20th. He went home that day. But anyway, the whole system is corrupt, man. Like I said, you don't have the right to a speedy. You don't have rights. You don't have any rights. None. If you do, go fuck around and find out how many rights you have after the fact. You find out real quick that you don't. You don't have the right to a speedy trial. They say you do, but you don't. OJ sat in jail. He was rich. OJ sat in jail for over a year plus 3.5 months waiting for his day in court to prove that he didn't kill his wife. I sat in jail for 14 months in a torture chamber, barred from ever seeing the sun or a tree or this. I saw the sky a couple times. I spent 4 months in a place where I could go outside and walk after I was convicted. That's another thing that the federal government does. The federal government is funding all of these county jails all over the country and turning them into torture chambers. Legalized torture. They're funding all of these county jails where they hold federal inmates under really, really harsh conditions to the level of like a supermax prison, the likes of where they're holding El Chapo. And it's designed to break you down and to destroy you, just like the January 6th guy who spent 28 months in solitary confinement. That dude still has nightmares about his experience. I mean, I haven't talked to him since I left prison, but I can tell you that he's going to have nightmares for the rest of his life for what they did to him in the DC gulag. But the federal government is paying for all these torture chambers to be set up to torture people, just like the Inquisition, just like the Spanish Inquisition. If you confess, everything will be okay. They dangle that paper in front of you. If you confess, we'll send you to Club Fed, where you get to play pickleball, you get to go outside and walk on a track, you can play indoor soccer, go to spinning class, work out in a gym, eat better food, go to a library, all these different things. Or we can lock you in a 10-foot by 3-foot cage where you don't even see the sun for 6 years. Oh, you want to wait? Oh, you want to go to trial? Okay. We'll let you sit in that box for 6 years, see how you feel about that. If you signed the plea deal, you would have went home in 2. Like, this is what they fucking do. So people who are innocent plead guilty all the time just because they don't want to be tortured anymore. And the chances of winning in court, even if you're innocent in a federal court case, are about 500. That you'd have an easier time winning the Powerball and then getting struck by lightning when you go get your big check to hold up in front of the cameras when you win the Powerball. That would be more likely to happen than winning a federal court case. So, I mean, after I pled guilty, all of a sudden I'm in a Club Fed. I get to go to the library, go to spinning class, pickleball, lift weights, it still sucks. It still sucks. It's still a crappy place to be, but it's better than where I was. And that's what they do. That's how they do it. If you exercise your right to a speedy trial and you force them to give you the speedy trial, the judge, the lawyers, your lawyer, your defender, the prosecutors, the stenographer, everybody involved in that courtroom will destroy you out of spite because you made them work harder than they wanted to. You know, these government employees, they don't do shit. They don't work. They don't fucking work. Doge. One word. Go look at the Doge finding. How many fucking people are we paying to sit in the federal government watching cat videos on YouTube all day? We're paying them $250,000 a year to do that. How much stuff did we find with Doge? And then Elon Musk was like, you know what? Donald Trump is a corrupt piece of shit. He's not going to do anything about this. I quit. Oh, and by the way, Donald Trump is on the Epstein files. Ha. Bye. Like, that's why Elon Musk left. He took a risk. He went and uncovered all this government wrongdoing, had half of his Tesla dealerships burned to the fucking ground, had his name dragged through the mud over it, found all this government corruption. Donald Trump was like, fuck you, we're not doing anything about it. He was like, all right, I fucking quit. Bye, you piece of shit. Oh, and by the way, X post. oh, Donald Trump is on the Epstein list. Haha, bye. Like, why do you think he quit? Because he found out Donald Trump is a lying piece of shit. You know, oh my God, dude. If you exercise your right to a speedy trial, the entire system will destroy you. It's no different than a group of employees who are fed up when somebody comes in and makes them have to work when they're used to being lazy all the time. They'll do everything in their power to get rid of the person who made them work. You know, a factory where everybody stands around goofing off all day. Somebody shows up and cracks the whip and makes everybody work. They're going to all gang up to get rid of that person. It's kind of like the same thing. If you're the defendant making them show up to work, they wanted you to sit in jail for 6 years while they look at cat videos on YouTube and fuck around. But you said, no, I want to exercise my right to a speedy trial. They're going to be pissed. But they'll word it differently. They'll file motions to extend the time for your speedy trial. You know, like your defender will file motions to extend, saying they need more time to gather and process evidence or to work on your case. When your defender does it, they'll tell the judge that you're in danger if you're not given more time on your case. But really, the reason why they're doing it, if you have a public defender, it's because they have 150 cases to juggle and they got a $10,000 budget for each case. But the prosecutor has $10 billion to prosecute each case, and there's no limit to the money and funds they can spend to come after you. And if you're to hire an attorney for a federal case, $100,000 up front, and that's to hire a fucking lawyer to try and make a couple of phone calls and get you a plea deal. That's all they're going to do. You're going to spend $100,000 for a lawyer in a federal case, and all you're going to get for that $100,000 is a couple of phone calls so that your lawyer can haggle with the prosecutor to try and get you a plea deal. You're going to go to court for a trial. They're going to want $2 million from you. And then they're going to say they can't do it. And then you're back to having a public defender for your trial, and you're going to lose. If the prosecutor decides to keep you from having a speedy trial, they'll just say, the state needs more time to process the evidence or something like that, discover this, or, you know, who knows? The judge will rule on it almost always in the favor of whoever wants to extend. And they'll do that for years. Like I said, I knew people sitting in the Butler County Jail for 6 years waiting for a trial for like a drug case, for being a drug dealer, sitting in jail for 6 years waiting for a trial. This Tyler kid, he's going to be sitting in there for at least 2 years waiting for a trial. But everybody thinks, oh, his trial's coming right. No. And that's a state case. I think that's Utah. That's not even a federal case. Pretty much more often than not, if you're arrested by them, you'll sit in jail until your trial, whether you're innocent or guilty. You're getting punished one way or the other. If you're rich enough to be out on bail, you still might have an ankle monitor strapped to your leg, and you might not be able to leave your house. But if you're that rich, at least you probably got a mansion and 20 fucking acres to walk around on. It's not like you're stuck in an apartment building. But if you exercise your right to a speedy trial and you go through that and you force them to give you your speedy trial, you think that kangaroo court is corrupt to begin with? Wait till you see what happens then. And I've heard the stories. I've seen people that did this. I've seen what happened to them. You're going to lose because you're going to be dealing with a pissed off judge who rules and rigs the whole trial against you. You know, overrules every objection your defendant makes, sustains every objection that the prosecutor comes up with. Every single thing is going to be, your whole thing is going to be thrown in the toilet. They're going to do everything to rig that kangaroo court against you, from the judge to the lawyers to the jury to the fucking stenographer with the little typewriter thing and all of it. And then when you're found guilty, you're going to get the maximum possible sentence they can give you in retaliation for, quote unquote, wasting the court's time. And that is supposed to scare anybody else from exercising their right to a speedy trial. I was told all of the stories from 6 different people who exercised their right to a speedy trial and ended up getting 10 years in prison instead of 13 months or some crazy shit because everybody got pissed and the judge was like, you wasted the court's time. I'm throwing the book at you. And that's to scare other people from doing it, to scare anybody else from exercising their rights. And so, they say you have rights, but you exercise your so-called rights in America at your own peril. In Iraq, did you know that you had the right to vote in Iraq? You had the right to vote, and they had elections, and you had the right to vote for Saddam Hussein. And if you chose not to vote for Saddam Hussein, you would find yourself living in a concentration camp, or your head would be in a wicker basket separated from your body, but you still had the right to go vote for him. They actually had elections in Iraq. Amazingly, it may have been close 1 or 2 times, but somehow Saddam Hussein won every single election. It's no different in America, except you get 2 piece of garbage candidates to pick from instead of 1. But anyway, that was the main topic of the show. Freedom for me, but not for thee. The hypocrisy of the left and the right. In my case, if I had gone to court, I was screwed either way. All the Democrats on my jury would hate my guts because I'm one of those Trump supporters. And as a Trump supporter, I deserve to spend the rest of my life in prison. If all the Republicans on my jury would call me guilty and want me to spend the rest of my life in prison because I threatened the heroes of the FBI. Police officers are the thin blue line. They're heroes. They could do no wrong. They never do anything wrong. They're never corrupt. How dare you threaten America's heroes? We're putting you away. I would have been pretty much screwed no matter what. Democrats or Republicans, I was done. I picked the one thing that you could do to piss off everybody at once. Nobody disagreed that all the prison guards, everybody involved, my lawyer, everybody from top to bottom said, you're a political prisoner. The only reason that you're in jail right now is because they're trying to shut people up and you're a political prisoner. They're trying to use you to shut people up. People have told me that they saw what happened to me and they deleted their social media posts of ranting against the government and this and that and the other thing because they were afraid that the same thing would happen to them. So it worked. A lot of people shut up. So, but it has put a definite, this whole situation is, undoubtedly it's caused me some problems. I'm not having an easy time in life since that day. And so how can we turn this whole show around? I just went off. I did the main topic. We're done. I'm done ranting about our corrupt government. And I think I found the perfect thing to jump over to. Once again, let's talk about Jesus, right? Because my whole life is a mess. Like I said earlier, 400 pages of results when you type my name into Google. Good luck finding a job. Child molesters who raped a 5-year-old kid will have an easier time finding a job because chances are when you type that person's name into Google, you might get 3 results. You might find a news article if you're lucky. But you type in my name, you get 400 pages of results. They made 100% sure to blast me in every single news outlet in America. I was probably the most famous person in America for about a week. I was right up there with like Taylor Swift. I probably got just as much airtime during the week of my arrest as Taylor Swift was getting that week. We were close. And they did it so that I would never have a chance to pick up my life and put my life back together. But you know what? Just, going back here, you can all you people who did that, this is how it's going to be. So anyway, go back to Jesus. I'm just not going to let this bring me down. I'm not. I have my good days. I have my bad days. But some days I just have to, what does God want me to do? Because I would not be where I am right now. I have a roof over my head. I have some wheels under my feet. I've got 2 bicycles in front of me. If the car just completely goes away. And, oh, look at that. We got our first troll of the night. God is fantasy. Well, you can say what you want. User BD7WY80B7L. God had nothing to do with your screen name because you would have been better at picking one if you had God in your life. But we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's see what this clown has to say from here. But I'm just going to go back to Jesus calling for a minute and tell you today's entry, because it kind of goes along with everything that I've been talking about. And Jesus wants you to know that I am working on your behalf. Bring me all your concerns, including your dreams. Talk with me about everything, letting the light of my presence shine on your hopes and plans. Spend time allowing my light to infuse your dreams with life, gradually transforming them into reality. This is a very practical way of collaborating with me. I, the creator of the universe, have designed to co-create with you. Do not try to hurry this process. If you want to work with me, you have to accept my time frame. Hurry is not in my nature. Abraham and Sarah had to wait many years for the fulfillment of my promise, a son. How their long wait intensified their enjoyment of this child. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. And so, before I even break this down, anybody who's been watching my channel since day one, I've shared enough stories with you about God in my life and the things that God has done for me that some ass clown retard isn't going to be showing up in the comment section, isn't going to convince me that God isn't real. So, say what you want. I'm at the point now you could put me in the gladiator arena in Rome and tell me that if I renounce Jesus Christ will save you from being fed to the lions, I'd be like, fuck it, throw me in. I might get eaten by a lion, or maybe the lion will come over and just hang out with me and I can pet the lion in front of the whole Colosseum because Jesus has my back and he's not going to let the lion eat me. I don't know, but I'm there. I already know God's real. I've seen so many things in my lifetime, including today. Today even had things going on today that were not coincident. Things happen that are not. There's a difference between something that's a coincidence and a synchronicity. And I've talked about this over and over again on this channel. But sometimes you see things happen and they're so exact and so frequent that they're not a coincidence anymore. God speaks to me through synchronicities all the time. He threw one at me this morning. It got me right out of bed. It was crazy. But when we're talking about the entry for today, this is the part that stands out. Do not try to hurry this process. If you want to work with me, you have to accept my time frame. Hurry is not in my nature. Remember earlier I was talking about the concept of not having any problems in if our time was unlimited. Would the things that we worry about be something to worry about if we knew that we had forever to take care of it? If time was no longer a factor, most of the things we worry about wouldn't matter anymore. If something's broken or not working, or we don't have something that we need or want, if we had unlimited time to figure it out, fix the issue or whatever, why would we even care anymore? And, there are so many things that fit in with this. Being homeless. When I was homeless, having to wait for the federal government to allow me to not be homeless anymore, when they could have allowed me to not be homeless at all, I had to be patient through all that. And you saw there were days that I was patient and there were days that I was going off the rails. It wasn't like every single day I was living in this, faith thing. My faith was ebbing and flowing a little bit. I think I always had the faith that things would work out, but I wasn't patient. I wanted to hurry the process. I wanted to get it done. But like this says, sometimes if you want to work with God, you have to accept his time frame. Hurry is not in his nature. Recently in August, finding out that I had money all along sitting in a bank account that I didn't know about, that would have prevented me from being homeless. It would have paid for me to move to Pittsburgh to be with my kids. But instead, a year and a half later, I end up finding out about this money, and I used it to buy a car. It fell out of the sky. I ended up having to walk 600 miles and ride a bicycle over 4,000 miles between 2024 and 2025 in order to get to and from and everywhere I had to go, just to find a bare minimum paid job and survive for over a year before getting a car. And now that I have a car, it's fallen apart. So I can't even get that done. And then we end up with faith is the assurance of things hoped for, perceiving as real fact what is not revealed to the senses. And that's more or less straight out of the Bible. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 is pretty much where that came from. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And so, a lot of the new age mumbo jumbo that you hear people talking about, like manifesting things in your life, believing that things are true to the point where they appear in your life. And if you can't, a lot of these manifesting new age mumbo jumbo people will tell you, well, if you can't get the thing that you want in life, it's because you didn't believe it was coming, et cetera, et cetera. That does have some legitimacy that's even backed up by the Bible. If you go to the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24, therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask for when you pray, believe that you receive them and you will have them. And so, I don't always know what to think about it, because there's plenty of examples in the Bible where people have asked God for things that he wouldn't give them. So to sit here and say that God will automatically give you whatever you ask for. I mean, I'm not, well, I don't even know if I should say this, but let's just say I wished bad things would happen to Joe Biden during the 4 years he was pretending to be president, yet my prayers went unanswered. He doesn't always answer your prayers. But, sometimes I shouldn't have been wishing for those things in the first place. They weren't godly things. We'll just leave it at that. So I don't know what to think about this, because I have seen examples where this works. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you have already received it, and then you will have it. And there's more Bible verses that talk about this, that you just have to have faith that he's going to come through. But I don't have the faith that he will just automatically, if I say, Lord Jesus, I need a brand new Mercedes SL 230, SLK 230, whatever, the convertible, I would like it in black, please. Like, it's not going to be out in front of my house tomorrow when I wake up. So, I mean, just because you ask him for something, I don't believe you're automatically going to get it. So this verse might convince you otherwise, and it is one of the verses of the Bible that the mumbo jumbo new age people who tell you to manifest everything in your life, they're going to point right to this. But there are people like Paul and other people in the Bible who talk about how they had ailments and God wouldn't heal them. Said, yeah, you're just fine the way you are. Or like that ailment is supposed to, keep you humble or whatever. I don't even know. He doesn't always give you what you want. Just like the Rolling Stones. Can't always get what you want. But there's something going on right now that I'm not going to talk about in detail. But when I talk about the synchronicity of things and how God talks to me through synchronicity all the time, that this goes way beyond coincidence. As at this point, the synchronicities with what I'm about to tell you are so outrageous. And it's been ramping up for a long time, but I would say within the last 3 weeks, it's gotten ridiculous. Like, it's constant, multiple times a day. And there's something like God's trying to tell me something, but I'm not 100% sure what to think about it. I've talked to a few people. I got my own opinions. And I'm kind of like, is this coming from God or is this coming from the evil one? Am I being hoodwinked? Am I being duped into believing something that's not real, or that something's coming my way that I shouldn't even have? I don't know. But anyway, this morning I got out of bed because of it. Like, jumped right out of bed. I was like, yo, I couldn't even turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. Now at night when I go to bed, I listen to some YouTube videos. Normally I'll turn on YouTube and I'll just find something that's more talky and less like, you don't like I'm doing. You can listen to me talk. You don't have to watch me. You don't got to see me sitting in front of the mic. I share a slide deck here and there with you, or a web page, but it's more like a podcast with a face. I'm not, some videos you got to watch. Like, there's just some videos, the audio, you got to see the video to go with it. But a lot of the stuff I listen to, you don't have to watch. So I have these things like I scroll and I find them, or I have a playlist. Most of the time, I'll just find a random video and say, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll hit that. Within 10, 15 minutes, I'm asleep. Now, if it's a one-off video that I just picked and clicked on, after the video is done playing, it'll just stop. My phone screen will dim. It'll go dark, and there won't be any sound. And then I'll wake up the next day when the alarm goes off or whatever. That's it. One video. YouTube won't just keep playing random videos after the video ends. It'll stop. But if you play a video in a playlist that you have set up, even a private playlist, I bookmark tons of videos every month that I want to watch. Oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting, but I'm not going to watch it now. I just click it and add it to a playlist. And I have them like December 2025, November 2025. I just have a month and a year, and it's a private playlist, and I just bookmark videos and drop them in the folder. So last night I found a video I wanted to watch as I was falling asleep, or listen to rather. And so I started listening to it and I fell asleep. And that was about 10 o'clock last night. And this morning. So anyway, like I said, I've had this thing going on. It's been on my mind for a few weeks, and I keep getting these coincidences that it's finally gone beyond coincidence to synchronicity, to like something is happening here and I don't know what. I don't know what to think of it. I have an opinion about it, but I don't know. I'm not gonna get into the details. It's not a good thing to talk about right now. But this has been going on for some months, but it's ramped up a lot in the last few weeks, and the synchronicities around it have been crazy lately to the point where I can't ignore it. It's constantly in my face. And it's kind of it has to do with the whole leveling up thing. And so I just don't know what to think of this. And it's way beyond coincidence now. It's into synchronicity territory. And so when I woke up this morning, there was a random video playing from that playlist. So I went to bed at 10 o'clock last night, and there's a playlist, and it's just going through video after video after video while I'm asleep. And so at 8 o'clock this morning on the dot, my alarm went off to wake me up. And so I had to wake up. I rolled over and I flicked the little button that turns off the alarm, but the video was still playing. And the very first thing that the person said in the video after I turned the alarm off was this like very precise, very exact thing being said that lines right up with all this weird synchronicity going on about something very specific, like specific names, specific things. Like it was weird. And the video itself had nothing to do. It just was like this. It was like 3 or 4 sentences of, huh? Like wild synchronicity. Like it was it was off the rails. And I'm like, just the timing of that. I went to bed at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. last night. All these videos have been playing all night long in the background while I sleep. And at 8 a.m. precise, when I flick the thing to turn off the alarm, I was about to roll over and just get a little cat nap and go back to sleep for a minute. And all of a sudden I hear this thing that lines up exactly with all this stuff that's going on around me right now. And it was so precise and so exact that I was like, that is so outrageously crazy that I couldn't even go back to sleep at that point. I had to get up. I'm like, wow, I'm done. I was dumbfounded by this. And if I could tell you all the specifics, you would be like, wow, that's crazy, Adam. But I tell you stories like this all the time. And so, it just goes right along with everything I've already told you. I'm just not going to tell you the details. Not yet. I mean, if this turns into something good, or, if this, whatever, if this someday down the road, I'll probably talk about it, but not now. So I'm wide awake now. I had to go back and play it again just to like, huh? Like I had to hear this twice just to like, that wasn't in my head. That dude actually said that exact thing right at the exact moment I woke up today, almost as if that was what I was supposed to hear when I jumped out of bed today. That like this thing I've been asking God about, he was like, boom, right there. He told me like an exact thing about the thing. I know you, I got nothing to, I can't prove it to you guys by being so vague about it. I'm just saying, I couldn't even give you an example. Just say you've had an exact question on your mind for weeks and you keep asking God for an answer. And then you wake up at 8 a.m. and the video that's playing on the playlist that's been playing since 10 p.m. Goes right to that exact answer to that question and gives you very specific stuff that it's almost, it's so crazy. And it's not the first time in the last few weeks that this has happened with this situation. And I don't know what to think about it because I don't know what, like, I'm kind of waiting for some clarification. And so, explainable without magic. All right, whatever, dude. Anyway, you picked the wrong crowd to come troll tonight. But well, whatever. Do what you want to do. I'm in a generous mood. I'll let you live. I'll let you live. I won't kick you off the channel tonight. You can live to troll another day. Um, but anyway, I was dumbfounded by this 10 hours straight of a random playlist, all kinds of random stuff. And then this very specific thing in answer to a question, very specific stuff in a random video that had nothing to do with that stuff pops up at the time that my alarm goes off. And so I don't know what to think about it. I still got questions that need answers. But anyway, I jumped out of bed. I've been more productive today than I was all week, to be honest. I think it was just because I was shook when I got out of bed this morning. Like, huh? Like, I'm still like, I've been thinking about it all day. It's so crazy. I don't even know. Like sometimes these signs, sometimes God says very loud and clear things to you. He talks to everybody a little bit differently, but with me, that's how he does it. But I still don't. I feel like he's trying to make something loud and clear, but I still won't believe it. And I have a lot of reasons not to. But it would be really cool if this turned out to be, if this turned into something good in my life. Cool. No problem. But anyway, my house has been neglected. All those water bottles you see in the background are empty. They got to be filled with that water filter. I've got some clutter going on, and I've just been burned out in the last few weeks. Laundry got totally backed up. It would have been better for me to go to a laundromat today than to do my laundry from home, but I didn't want to leave the house. So even if it took 4 hours to wash it in my third world washing machine and probably 20 plus hours to dry on the clothesline, the indoor clothesline with the fan going, because there's so much stuff hanging up right now that when it dries, it'll dry all at once, but it may not dry until the morning. Whatever, but I'm just, I don't know, mentally I'm not feeling great the last few weeks. It all started the weekend before Thanksgiving, like I said, and there wasn't anything bad. Like, I really don't have anything to be upset about in general, because I think I'm in a much better place right now than I was a year ago. In every way, shape, or form, you can't deny it. There's still stress all over the place, but and I've got good things going on this weekend too. I got a little Christmas gathering, and but this time of year, it depresses me. And I think I went through this last year too. This is a bad time of year. I thought moving to Houston where the weather is warm would help. And I thought that, that's not why I came here, but I thought that was a benefit that I would experience because I came here. Winter depression is a real thing, and it has to do with not getting enough sunlight more than any other factor. The cold, it's this lack of sunlight. They turn the clocks back. The sun goes down at 5:00. We live in darkness for 4 months. And they really ramp it up on us. And my diet right now is pretty horrendous. I'm not going to lie. I've been stress eating and just eating like garbage, not riding my bicycle. The clock shift, the winter, I can't say it's cold because it was 68 degrees today. How cold was it where you live? I can't complain. But when it's fully dark and I look out the window and it's fully dark and it's 5:45 p.m., it's depressing. I don't like this time of year. I wish I could go somewhere else. If I was rich, I'd probably go to the southern hemisphere. I'd switch hemispheres so that I'd live near the equator or something. I don't know. So I really need to get sunlight. That's really what it boils down to. And there's no excuse because it's warm enough here. Even in the dead of winter, we have 70-degree days. There's just, I just need to think of something to do. But I mean, sunset in Houston right now is 5:23 p.m. But if I was in Jamestown, New York, still it would be 4:45. So I'm still getting almost an extra 45 minutes just by being down south. In Pittsburgh, it would be 4:53 p.m. if the sun set today. But in the summer, it flips. In the summer, you get more sunshine up north. So, like on the summer solstice on June 21st, down here in Houston, the sunset will be 8:25 p.m. and the sunset in Jamestown, New York will be 8:56 p.m. So you get an extra half hour of sunlight up in Jamestown for the evening. I don't know. I didn't figure out the sun rises, but if you live in Anchorage, my best friend lived in Anchorage for several years. And if you think winter is, I wouldn't be able to survive an Anchorage winter or an Alaska winter because I've always had issues with the sunlight in the winter. I used to have one of those lights, the full spectrum lights that you put on your desk. It was called a Happy Light. That was the brand. Psychologist recommended that I get one because they said you seem to get depressed in the winter. It's probably a lack of sunshine, vitamin D, all that stuff. And that it kind of helped, but it was like artificial and fake. So when I had a sunroom in my old house, when I lived in Amish country, I would set up recliners, the gravity chairs, the folding recliners. I would set up a couple of those in the sunroom so that on a bright sunny day, I could go out and sit in the sun for an hour or two and just take a laptop out there or do something and do whatever I can do there. But I would try to at least get real sunlight, even coming through the windows. It could be 30 degrees outside and it could be 78 to 80 degrees, 90 degrees in that sunroom with the sun beating down. But then when the sun goes down, that room was obnoxiously cold. But sunlight, I found out if I could just sit in the sun for an hour or two every day, it would have a huge effect on my mood. And for the last 3 weeks, I've noticed I don't go outside. I mean, I'm not going outside other than to go to the mailbox in short little trips to I'm not spending any time outside. So I should I should start biking to work again. Bike to the bakery. That'll give me a little, but when I leave in the morning, it's still not, the sun's not up. And when I come home, the sun's going down. Like it's 4:30. I'll get home after dark. So it's like, I got to think of something I got to figure out how to get some sunshine. But, in Anchorage, I could deal with Alaska summer. On the summer solstice in Anchorage, the sunset is 11:43 p.m. and the sun comes back up at 4:21 a.m. But it never gets dark enough to see the stars. It'll be like dusk. The sun just kind of dips behind the mountains. It gets kind of dusk. We'd be out playing frisbee golf until about 12:30 a.m. before it would get dark enough that if your frisbee went off into the woods, it'd be really hard to find. And you might need a flashlight. But it never gets dark. And it kind of gets dusk, and then a few hours later, the sun pops back up above the mountains, and it's daytime again. If you live in Fairbanks, close to the Arctic Circle, the sun goes down at 12:48 a.m., and it comes back up at 2:58. And if you live at the top of the world, like Prudhoe Bay in Alaska, way above the Arctic Circle, the sun will rise at 1:53 a.m. on May 15th. And then the next sunset is 1:24 a.m. on July 29th. So it might be cold up there, but you're getting plenty of sunshine. From May 15th to July 29th, it's daytime. But today, it's 68 degrees here in Houston, 26 degrees in Jamestown, or 26 degrees in Pittsburgh, 23 degrees in Jamestown. So, I mean, and they're covered in snow. It's covered in snow up there, especially Jamestown. It's terrible. I don't know about Pittsburgh, but I know Jamestown's it's miserable up there. 68 degrees here. I mean, oh, boo-hoo. Everybody said I'd hate the summer, but I would like it to be 98 degrees again. I like it when it's hot. Um, I'm the old guy who moved to Florida to get away from it all. 68 ain't bad though. It's sunny. It's been sunny last few days. I mean, it's sunny more often than not here. Um, but I should be doing something. I should be doing something outside. I think my mental health. I should take advantage of the fact I live someplace that's warm all year. We have some cold days, but it's generally warm all year long. There's no excuse. I need to find something to do. Just go on a hike, do something outside, get sunlight on your face. Tomorrow, maybe, I don't know, but I'm thinking within the next week, I got to come up with something to do, even if it's take a break during the middle of the day and just go out for a few hours. I don't know. Maybe frisbee golf. There's frisbee golf courses around here, but I got to spend money to get frisbees and things. It's not a lot of money to get started, but you know, to get a kit like I used to have when I used to play would take a while. But to get the 3 basic discs that you need to start, you can get a 3-pack at Dunham's Sporting Goods or Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever. You can get what you need to go play. You can spend a few bucks, like 25, 30 bucks will get you out the door. And all the disc golf courses are free unless they're on a golf course at a country club, which they have started showing up at these country clubs, have started putting them in. But generally speaking, most frisbee golf courses are free to the public in public parks. They're great. It's a great sport because it like I said, doesn't cost anything. Get some frisbees. You could get you want to use the proper discs, but you could use an ultimate frisbee. I know we used to play for fun. I used to play ultimate frisbee, and some of the ultimate people, we would go to the frisbee golf course and bring ultimate discs, which don't fly as far, but we would play against each other using nothing but an ultimate disc, and it just gives you some throwing practice. You can practice all your different throws, your sidearms, your tomahawks, your forehand, and the different throws, and you can practice your accuracy and all that. It's good for that. We would even have like special rules because in ultimate frisbee, when you throw the disc, you have to keep 1 foot planted on the ground and pivot like a basketball player. If you stop dribbling and you're holding the ball, you have to have 1 foot planted on the court, and you can't just run with the ball. You can pivot, but 1 foot has to stay in place. It's the same concept. You can't throw the disc. When you catch the disc or you have the disc in your hand, you're not allowed to run with it. You got to pivot. A defender can be right in front of you trying to block your shot, and you got to figure out how to get over or under them and still keep your accuracy and whatnot. So we would come up with different frisbee golf rules when we would go with our ultimate discs to practice the, ultimates and, practice scenarios in an ultimate frisbee game, but just to be out for a fun day of frisbee golf. 1 frisbee, it costs like $10. Not the disc that you would want to actually play frisbee golf with, but those fly pretty far. You can throw an ultimate frisbee disc. You can throw it 100 yards if you got a good arm. You could throw it the length of a soccer field, no problem. I mean, you got to give it a good. You got to be good at it, but you can get it to go the length of a soccer field. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got different things. I mean, hiking is free. So there's different things I can do but I got to get some sunshine on my face. I think that would do me more good than I'm even thinking it would do. Get out on the bicycle, go on a quick ride, go bicycling for fun for once instead of having to do it for, transportation. Just go on a bike ride for fun. Even if I start from my home here and just like think of something to go ride my bike to something and ride back. I don't know. So next week, I definitely have to do something. And so, yeah, I really don't have a lot. I don't really have more to talk about, but we're going on 2 hours and 40 minutes here for a 2-hour live stream. So I don't think anybody's going to feel like they didn't get their money's worth, especially when it was free. The plugs, they're in the, go to the description below the video. Next week, I'll probably have a link tree page up with the plugs. And then I'll just I'll pin a link to the top of the chat on the live streams. And then that'll be a link that just takes you to the plugs page. And then when it's time to do the plugs, I'll just be like, click the link, go check it out. Alex and Analog, thank you for that bit of cash to get your Frisbee game going. Get some sun. Thank you so much for that. All of the people that contribute, it blows my mind. I think you threw some bones in the chicken bucket last week too. That was awesome. Money got tight this month, the car situation, all that, but things just kind of like, things just fall into place as they're supposed to. So, yeah, I mean, it all goes somewhere. I don't know exactly where it goes, but groceries, whatever, sometimes sometimes some of the contributions that people have thrown in that bucket come at a time where I'm thinking of an exact example of the water filter that's behind me, that silver water filter right there. I just moved into the tool shed one night, or I just moved into that tool shed I was living in. And I bought that water filter because the water in that place was atrocious and I didn't want to buy water from the grocery store. And so I ate the cost of the water filter. And it wasn't a Berkey, so it wasn't as expensive as a Berkey filter, but it wasn't cheap. And I was like, how am I going to pay for this? I'm not kidding. About 2 hours after I bought the water filter, I hadn't done a video. I hadn't done anything. Like, I wasn't doing live streams or anything. Someone dropped money in the chicken bucket that was almost the exact same amount of money as I paid for the water filter. And so I went from that night, I was sitting there going, how am I going to, I just spent that money on that water filter. How am I going to pay this bill that's coming up? And then I get an email like an hour later, somebody, so-and-so dropped money in the chicken bucket. And it was almost the exact amount of money that I paid for the water filter. So it was like whoever it was paid for the water filter. That literally an hour after I bought it. And so that kind of stuff happens a lot. Somebody threw money in that bucket once when I moved into the place I'm living in right now. And it happened. The timing was so precise that I wasn't in like panic attack mode at the end of the month, but between the end of May and the beginning of June, when I moved in here, everything was tight and just stressful. And, I got to pay my first month's rent, my security deposit, a moving truck. I got to move. I got to set all this stuff up. I got to get stuff for the new place. I had to get a rack to put my bicycles on so that they would be out of the way, and some shelving units to put stuff on because I didn't have any closets or anything, and I didn't want to live in squalor. And somebody threw money in the chicken bucket totally out of nowhere, not because of the situation. It was magical coincidence that all of a sudden everything was easy for the whole month. Like, I was able to, the move became, instead of stressful, it was smooth. And I was able to get through that first month in my new place here without any major stress. And so I see that, like, that's happened a lot on this channel ever since I started doing it. Like, when I was in Jamestown, same thing. Like, I remember thinking a couple times, I remember one time, like, I've been paying for a Photoshop subscription, an Adobe software subscription since April. Since about a week after I got out of prison, I've been paying for an Adobe subscription. So you think, what's a homeless person doing paying for an Adobe Creative Cloud Suite subscription, right? But I've been paying it every month. And believe me, if you don't pay it, they're going to shut it right off. And there were a couple of times when I was homeless that I would be like, oh, how am I going to pay this Adobe bill? And all of a sudden, some random money would show up in the chicken bucket, and all of a sudden it would just be paid for because it goes into that account that bill money came out of. And I'm like, well, there you go. And I didn't have to worry about it. And then, plus I was eating off of everybody else's dime because I had food stamps. EBT, Eat Better Today, had the Eat Better Today EBT card. And that was back when the Democrats were in charge, so I could eat candy bars and ice cream and soda pop and all the bad stuff that you don't want us eating on the EBT. If you're a Republican, you want to dictate what everybody gets to eat. Now, I'm not for some lazy person with 20 kids going to eat filet mignon and lobster every day because they're living off of our dime and they don't want to go get a job. But, I don't have a problem with people who are actually in need, who are going through a hard time, who need some help. And I don't feel like it's my place to dictate what they spend their money on. Like, obviously, if you spend your EBT on filet mignon and lobster, you ain't going to have much left on until the first of the month. But when I moved to Texas, I still had a balance. I still had a pretty good balance on my EBT card. And I was this close. I was this close to going to the grocery store and buying lobster tails and steaks and fillets and having filet mignon and lobster on everybody else's dime. But the better part of me said, you know what, Adam? You'll stretch that money a lot farther if you get regular food. You'll be able to fill up a basket instead of getting 4 things. You'll be able to go to the grocery store like 3 more times before you've got to spend your own money. So I stretched that remaining EBT money out for like 3 weeks. I went to the grocery store 3 times before I spent the last of it. After they shut off my card, I still had a balance on it that I could still spend. And it's national. You can use it anywhere that takes EBT, which is pretty much everything now. You can use EBT at McDonald's in some places like New York and stuff. So, it's like a Visa card, but a little bit different because they will block you from buying things that aren't food. And, you can't go to fucking GameStop and buy a video game and go EBT. It's not going to work. But anyway, I stretched that out over like 3 weeks instead of doing the whole filet mignon and lobster dinner to celebrate coming to Houston. I'm glad because I would have regretted doing that. And as cool as that would have been, as funny as that would have been, smarter head had to prevail. But anyway, thank you for that donation. I'll take a look at that when I get off of here. And one more thing before I go. We'll make it the 3-hour video. So, but talking about, because a lot of you've heard me talk about, I'm going to do a video series on this channel, called Executing Order 66, where the whole plot is basically, how over 3 years ago, I was making well over 6 figures. I owned 3 cars. I had a 25-foot waterfall in my yard. And then on August 12th, 2022, the FBI crashed a tank into the front door of my home and dragged me off to federal prison for mean tweets. And how I'm trying to put my life back together and all of that. So Executing Order 66 is going to be a documentary series, if you will, of 15-minute long videos or less about my plan to build 6 income streams that each make 6 figures, starting from nothing. It technically started the day I became homeless. So the whole point is the tyrannical empire executed Order 66 on my life, and now it's time for me to strike back. And I'm going to share with you how I plan on organizing everything and how I'm like lining down my thought process of how to set goals for yourself and how to meet the goals that you set. And I have a whole system around this that I've used in the past that helped me quite a bit. And it actually helped me achieve reaching a six-figure income level by sticking to the plan. But it's not really a plan, it's more like a loose. I always talk about have a plan, but be willing to throw your plan away because the battlefield always changes. Don't go into battle without a plan. How many times did the Jedi and the clones go into battle without a plan? They always had a plan. But how many times did they have to throw their plan away in the middle of the battle because something didn't go according to plan? Pretty much every time. So it's a system where you can organize chaos to try and make something like order out of it, but it's loose enough that it's more like a guide. It's this is what I want to do. This is what I want to try and do it by. But this might change next week. And so I'm going to show this to you. And so what I did this week, I've made progress on this because of the fact that I'm doing these. I put a hard cap, 15 minutes, no more than 15 minutes per episode, because I'm trying to capture the short attention span of YouTube viewers. And I'm going to I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to be myself. I will be myself, but I'm not going to swear. I'm going to do a few things to keep the algorithm from smacking me down. So there will be a few videos on my YouTube channel here that don't follow the normal format of dropping an F-bomb every 10 minutes and talking about the vaccine Kool-Aid cult and all that kind of stuff. You know, this is going to be a break from that. And so because I'm capping it at 15 minutes, I actually had to write a script. And I wouldn't call it a script. It's more like a whole bunch of bullet points of things that I want to say, but it's concise. And I went through a process of like writing and rewriting and redoing it. I did it like 3 times this week. I used AI to help me clean up my thoughts, consolidate, shrink it down. And then I sat there and timed it with a stopwatch where each section, I would time a read through, just like you're practicing a script for a movie, and then stop the stopwatch and see how much time it took. And so I have a hard 15-minute video scripted out. I know what the intro is going to be. I'm going to do a music intro with some animation with this logo, this Order 66 logo, the episode 1, the photos of me in the prison jumpsuit and the Jedi robes. I got it all figured out in my head. The script is written. The words are down. I know exactly how the intro is going to go. It'll be reusable. So other than episode 1 that you see here, it'll be the same animation for every video, with the same music, the same sound effects, etc. And then each video will have there will be an exit animation sort of video sequence when every video ends. And then that'll be, I think that's about 12 seconds. Let me look. 10 seconds. So there'll be like an end screen that's 10 seconds long. That just wraps up the video, and that'll be reusable for every video. And then, so the whole videos will consist of me sitting in front of the camera, talking in the microphone, doing a voiceover, sharing my screen, and using basic slide decks to show things like I've been doing on the live stream. You know, I don't have time to do complicated animations and all that stuff, but I do have time to make a slide deck. Single slides are easy to make. And sharing my screen, because I'm going to be showing you how to use software to do some things. And I'm just going to do like live demo. Like, here's what I'm doing. And I'm going to do it in front of you and just show you how I'm doing it as I'm doing it. It's almost going to be like real time. I'm going to be following a process that I have in place for setting goals and trying to meet them. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to record it and share it with you. So I have this ready to go. A script, 15 minutes long, precise. This one will be exactly 15 minutes because each section is laid out of what I'm going to say. Each section has a pretty if I read through it 4 times, they'll be like 1 to 3 seconds apart in terms of the time it takes to get through it. So I have a section that's a minute and 45 seconds. I have a section that's 5 minutes and 42 seconds. And then I have, well, the 5 minutes and 42 seconds is the open-ended one. So I have all these fixed length ones. One's a minute 45, one section is 110, minute 10 seconds. There's another section that is a minute 30 seconds, 42 seconds for another one, etc. And they all add up. And then there's this open-ended time frame where I basically have 5 minutes and 42 seconds left to fill to get the video to 15 minutes. But what I'm going to put in there will take longer than 5 minutes to do. So I can use some, I can speed up the video. I can cut things. I can put hard cuts in there. You'll see it when it's done. But I have it ready. Like, all I have to do to make this happen is record the voiceover and me talking in front of the microphone, put together a few slides for my slide deck, and the screen recordings of me doing what I'm going to show you how to do. But the hard part of the first video will be creating the animation of this logo and the music and the whole like intro bit for the video series. But the time that I spend on it is reusable because I'm going to use it for every video. So I have this, like I spent like 4 or 5 hours on this on one day of this week. I think it was like Tuesday. That was what I was pulled to do from the spirit. And so I did work on it. So don't think it's not easy. In my motion graphics days, when I used to do motion graphics for a living for corporate clients and stuff like that, you could spend a month working on a 5-minute video if it had a lot of animation and stuff going on and graphic design involved. And, a 30-second TV commercial could take 6 months to produce, depending on what it is. These things, and it could take a crew of 50 people to make it happen. So a 15-minute video with some professionalism to it, the opening animation part is the music intro is 36 seconds, but I'll be talking for 12 seconds. It won't have me talking. And then for the rest of it, I'll be talking over the music. And I can already see there's a part of it that I'll have to change each episode. So but I'll get into a rhythm of this. Like I'm setting up a structure. The first one's going to take a long time. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take. That's why I'm not putting a deadline on this for me, because I don't know what I'm getting into here. And you'd think a 15-minute video, how complicated can it be? Or it can take months. It's not going to take months. I'm not making it that complicated, but it's not easy to do. It's easy to turn on a camera and talk and put no production into it. But as soon as you start editing, doing graphics, animation, stuff like that, it adds up quick. And I'm not going to make it perfect. It's going to have, it's still going to have the feel of this channel and whatnot. But I'm doing it. I just want you to know I'm actually I've made progress on this, and I have episode 1 laid out 15 minutes exactly. I know exactly what to say. There's a story to it. Everything it makes sense beginning to end. It explains everything. There's a step 1 to the process, and it's going to give you homework to do. In the meantime, I'll be working on episode 2. And hopefully episode 2 goes quicker because I'll have a process in place. By the time I do the first one, usually when you repeat the process to do a second one of the same thing, they get faster and faster and faster because you have a rhythm in place, you have reusable content, you have a lot of things figured out in the time it took you to make the first one. The second one might be half as much work as the first one because a lot of the stuff you did in the first video or in the first whatever that you're doing transfers to the second one, and so on and so forth. And as you go down the road, you'll find ways to make it faster and more efficient. And the quality of everything should improve over time too. And so this will probably set me up pretty good if I want to start doing more adventure videos and bicycling kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. That's part of the whole thing that I'm going to show you, is that the whole point is I don't know what to do with myself right now. And so this whole series is going to be sorting that out. Like, my to-do list has grown to the point I could never do it. So what do you do with it? How do you figure it out? How do you prioritize things? How do you take a to-do list with 900 things on it that, you know, if you worked on it for the rest of your life and never added anything new to the list, you'd never get it done? How do you, like, what do you do with this? And so I'm going to show you, like, this is how you sort it out. Somebody showed me this process a long time ago, and it worked for me. It helped me out a lot. I didn't do it exactly the way they told me to do it. I put my own spin on it, as everybody should do. Nobody should just do it verbatim. So, and and that'll be part of the video. Like, that'll be part of the point, is you don't have to do it exactly the way I'm doing it, but there are certain things you should do no matter, what tools you use and how you want to set this up for yourself. So, but I am working on it. By next week at this time, I will have probably recorded some video for it. If not all, the voiceover. If I can get the voiceover, like me sitting in front of the camera, talking to the camera, and reading the whole script out, and having that all in place, then all I have to do is screen capture and, like, graphics and motion graphics and that kind of stuff. And that'll take time, but I don't want to make it so complicated that, like, this Order 66 logo, I could do some really crazy animation, or I could just make it fade in. You know what I mean? Like, I could try to keep it professional, but simple enough that it's not going to take me, I don't want to spend 40 hours on a 10-second video animation, but it should be nice. I mean, there's things I can do. And that used to be my primary bread and butter. How I made my money was making motion graphics for video and web presentations. My whole portfolio used to be full of nothing but that kind of stuff. And so I can bang out some crazy stuff, but I also know that a 1-minute video could take 40 hours. A 1-minute animated video could take 40 hours on a good week, if you're doing it at a high level, like, industrial light and magic stuff. But we're not there. We're YouTube. We're on YouTube. We're not on the big screen. So it'll be what it is, but it'll be a lot more professional and a lot more polished than what I'm normally used to doing. But there's some stuff to get out of the way, but I did make progress on it. And with that, I think that's all I have to say for this week's live stream. Next Tuesday is the members only live stream. Next Thursday will be the live stream for everybody else. The week of Christmas, I don't know what's going on. I don't have any plans for Christmas, and that's fine with me. Don't feel sorry for me. I'll be happy to stay. I'll be happy to have a quiet day at home if that's what it's going to be this year. Fine with me. Maybe I'll make some good food. I'll make it work. But anyway, with that, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I will see you on the other side, and I hope y'all have a good one. Thanks for stopping by, and we will talk again soon. Later.